Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today we are not joined by Mel, unfortunately, but we have the next best thing in the boomy from Boomunda. I don't know. Classic Go, welcome to the show. I tried to come up with something fast there and failed miserably.
All good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming. And also joining the show once again, our man of caves and hardcore and man of numbers and facts galore, Table Slam. Welcome to the show.
From Ferrunda. I would definitely take a vacation to Boomunda.
I was thinking like Down Under, Boomunda.
True. You just go with the old classic From Moonglade.
And I'm from the depths of the Trial of the Grand Crusade.
True.
And the noob looks very pissed at me in the background there. He's like, dude, are we going to get fighting or what? I'm like, dude, hold on, man. I'm waiting for the rest of the team.
In the sink again.
All right. Well, I'd like to start out the show by thanking our tank patrons and Thick Lizzie, Croxford, Braxton, and Turtle Whale. I'd like to remind everybody we stream the show live at twitch.tv/BlazinBob. And we stream now also on kick.com/BlazinBob. That's BLAZZINBOB. So check those out. I want to encourage everybody to join our Discord server. We keep getting more in, but we've got some fun stuff. That's discord.me/Warcraft Reloaded, or you can go to warcraftreloaded.com and click the Discord link, or check it in the notes of this show. So we didn't get any new voicemails this week. I want to remind everybody that number is 816-866-1066, or go to speakpipe.com/Warcraft Reloaded. We did get some Discord podcast questions, which we're going to go over probably first. Then we're going to do what we've been doing in WoW lately. Then we're going to go over a little bit of news, and at the end of the show, for the last segment, we were going to just do a talk about the Week 2 DPS rankings came out for Wrath of the Lich King ToGC, and we were going to look back at the Week 2 and of Naxx and the Week 2 of Ulduar, and just see how the landscape's changed over time, and maybe give a little bit of talk on how some people's rotations are going to be changing based on gear, and how some people's stat prio is going to be changing because there's so, we're getting close to soft caps of crit and different things of that nature. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. I think it's going to be a fun show, and I encourage you guys to stick around. All right. I think I got everything out. Okay. Table, do you want to read the first question that we had from the Discord server? From
Sure.
Fez.
Yep, a question from Fez. Hey again, I was thinking, with this Sidereal Essence, or Sidereal if you prefer, what do you think about making Heroic plus of all the dungeons, plus the old raids? Allow people to put groups together and do Ubers, Molten Core, Black Temple, etc. Would give people a reason to revisit old content. Who doesn't think back fondly of that first VC run, of course, Dead Mines? Would up the cost of items, of course. Would be a great way to gear alts without struggling through 6-hour Ulduars.
So the 6-hour Ulduars confuses me, because he's talking about Sidereal Essence, but he's talking about 6-hour Ulduars. Is that a 10-man taking 6 hours? I mean, I guess we had a 5-hour 10-man one time with Pugs, but I mean, 3 of the hours were just filling the people that left every other boss.
It's really a gear thing. If you're under geared, it could take a while.
Yeah,
only a couple of DPS checks.
Yeah, I mean, I run through now the skips in Ulduar 10 in an hour and a half time, and we kill any boss that somebody is willing to, pre-bid, a decent amount for us to kill the boss. But sometimes we just kill the boss. If more than one person needs something, then we don't ask. We just kill the boss. So we're always killing Algalon and then Yogg and Vezix. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's so much easier to do that than the Sidereal Essence. But he's talking about having Sidereal Essences drop in raids. Is he thinking one per raid or one per raid boss? Because those at this point, me and Simon Eyes 2-manned most of Molten Core, and then 3-manned almost all of Blackwing Lair, and just had to bring in a fourth. And this was just rogues. Had to bring in a fourth rogue to actually kill Neff in the end in BWL. So we'd be able to farm essences pretty fast doing that. Maybe if they made it you could do it once a week. I mean, I guess you're locked out every week in the raids too. So I guess it wouldn't be all that bad, but it'd be a lot of essences, right?
It'd be a ton.
There's a lot of old bosses.
But I mean, if it's scaling them up to level 80, then okay.
Or scaling us down to their original level.
Yeah.
If it did that, I mean, that'd be something interesting to get Sidereal Essence. But I'm still just enjoying older. Getting something from Ulduar instead of Essence sounds so much more appealing to me than going through 19 to 38 heroic pluses. Unless you've got an all 5K pumper group, those are fun because you're done with a whole world tour in 2 hours. But I don't know. That's all my thoughts on. What do you guys think?
I mean, the thing with the old raids that I wish that they did was just make all the loot from those BOE, but that doesn't really help you out at level 80. It would just help you gear your ult while you leveled it up to 80. So it's you could pre-farm some gear from Molten Core, so you get your tune up to level 60, and then you just throw it all of it's tier 1, except for the heirloom slots or whatever.
That would be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool.
Then you would see players in Outlands leveling up, and they'd be in their tier 1 instead of.
So it would still bind to that new tune, though, right? So it wouldn't be it wouldn't be like an heirloom who would bind to those tunes.
It'd just be in TBC, they made the world boss loot BOE at some point at one of the later phases. So it'd be kind of like that. You just make all the raid loot BOE.
That's kind of a cool idea, because I was thinking, oh well, the greens outpace the gear, but the greens outpace gear in Molten Core. Full Nax gear, that was by most classes usable in the first raid. You were getting side grades in TBC and the 10-mans, So
yeah, some of the stuff didn't get replaced until Karazhan. My warrior, I was tanking a couple of bosses in heroics and in Karazhan still with some Nax gear on.
Well, even in Kara, for warlocks in full tier and stuff, it was side grades. It was Kara was straight up side grades, and it was crazy in a deep DKP guild, because the warlocks that came from Classic that were warlocks in Classic basically just didn't have to spend any DKP in phase 1, hardly at all. So in phase 2, they just cleaned up, whereas we had to spend DKP on our new tunes because we needed gear, and they didn't have to do any of the pre-raid BIS dungeon farming stuff either. It's crazy.
I think the big ones were weapons. Weapons was one of the things that did get replaced.
That did, yes, pretty quickly for most classes.
Set bonuses were just so strong for some of the classes.
So I guess just rolling off of that idea and trying to incorporate it into the Sidereal Essence stuff, maybe next raid tier when ICC comes out, they just make 10-man Ulduar gear BOE instead of it requiring Sidereal Essence.
That's an interesting idea, because then you would have people that are just fuck it, I'm going to go on my pumpers. And you're going to have pumper groups going in and clearing so fast because they could just send the gear to their alts. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Huh, I didn't even think about that.
Or what if they made the gear account bound, but it's like BOP, like account bound somehow, you know, like, so you could give it to your alt if you want it, but you couldn't like post it on the auction house.
Yeah, well, I thought that's what you were saying from it, like
Okay.
right off the bat. I thought that was
No.
that was assumed. It was account bind on equip.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because like I would want the market, because then then you just be in there farming like stuff, like they're just it'd be an interesting new way to farm though.
I feel like Go's idea of making like old raid gear BOE, and also having like some sort of sidereal gain from old raids could be interesting, because like there's people that like to collect stuff. So like, if you re-roll the new class in Wrath and you're really liking it, you're like, oh man, I wish I played this back then, because then I would have tier 1, tier 2 on this class or whatever. It's kind of a pain to go back and farm something to for a different. But if you have just one character or if it's BOE, you could just buy it off the auction house. It would open up a whole new market of stuff on the AH. Be kind of interesting. And then the people that actually go and run the stuff to get those pieces to post, they get something out of it too, other than just gold by the sidereal thing.
Mm-hmm. And then when Transmog comes out in Cata Classic, comes out in 6 months, then you could sell Transmog sets on the auction house.
Yeah, there's the whole Transmog market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, because people would just. I guess the whales would buy everything, but in the transmog, isn't that like I went and got this and farmed this? Isn't that part of the fun for them? I don't know. I've been collecting transmog. It's been fun to collect it, like in my bag. I'm like, oh yeah, these swords. Oh yeah, like this is one of the few swords that goes on your back, and I'm gonna be able to do 2 of them and have 2 on my back. It's just like funny stuff like that, like. So I don't know.
So like to the actual question here about like adding sidereals to like the old raids and whatever to make it easier to gear up alts and stuff like that. I think that's part of that would be interesting, because like you can on a fresh 80 you can go back and farm molten core with like a couple people and not have any issues, and then you're getting sidereal from that makes it easier to gear up the alt. So that's part of the the question. Like that's where my mind goes anyway, is like you can still gear up your alt without having to like deal with not being able to get into groups because your gear's awful. You can just go get a bunch of sidereals from stuff that it is possible for you to just clear very easily. But something that like I've said before and like tons of other people have had the same idea is like, why didn't they just put sidereals in 10-man Ulduar? Like why do we have to get them from dungeons? Like the raid where that gear comes from, why doesn't that raid just drop the essence? Because then you still have a reason to go back and do 10-man, like, or make it for both or whatever, because like 39 essence for some 38, whatever it is for like the super expensive stuff, like that takes forever. Like you could, if you did a world tour every day for a few days, sure, but like that's a lot of dungeons.
Yeah, it's still over. You might be able to do it. Is it 13 dungeons for a full tour?
Yeah.
So 3 full tour days, and you could get a weapon, right? I think, but at the same time, the whole purpose of it was to make the heroic pluses more active, and I think it's done that. But I think the only, I've talked about maybe give 3, if you clear it fast and clear all the stuff, or 2 if you clear it semi-fast, and then 1 if you just clear it. Like, but honestly, I think just every item should be 15 sidereal. Like 15 is more than a day world tour. Like the items are priced silly. Like the trinkets, the caster trinket and the runestone trinket are 2 of the biggest sought after items in most 10-mans, right? And like they're way cheaper than a sword that most likely is going to the only one person that's going to use it in your raid, or going to somebody for PvP, right? Like, you know, the two-handed sword. Or it's just it's funny that weapons cost so much when they're the easier ones to get when they drop. So I think everything just should have been 15 and we would have been fine. Like every item.
Yeah. I think also it's like, it's a question of what Blizzard was trying to achieve, really. Like, did they add the Sidereal in to help out players who ran it every lockout and didn't see an item drop, so now they have a deterministic way to get the specific piece they're missing? Or is it in there specifically for newer players, fresh 80s to gear up? Like, which is it supposed to be?
It's
Like,
for
I'm
both.
having trouble. It's like, it's weird though, because it's like it is for both, but like it's not really a great solution for either one, because it's too many essences for like, you think a fresh 80 is going to be able to get into a beta rune dungeon group? Probably not. And then like if you've already ran, like I'll use myself as an example. I ran 10-man Ulduar full hard modes every week on the entirety of phase 2. Didn't see the bracers off of XT until the last week of the phase, and didn't see the cloak off of Vezix at all. It wasn't until phase 3 that I saw the cloak off of Vezix. That feels bad.
I've only seen it twice too.
Like I've already ran it 22 times and didn't see it. Now you're telling me I have to run 19 dungeons or 15 dungeons or whatever it is to get the thing that I've already put in a ton of work to try and get. Like, that just still kind of feels bad.
Yeah, they're trying to do it to make us super geared people trying for one or two items, to make us do the dungeons for a bit to carry along the other people. Because, you know, depending on the time, I take people that are under 4K gear score sometimes, like not pretty rarely, but like 4.2, 4.3, I take all the time, you know, and I'm going on 4.3 or 5.3 and 5.4 geared twos, you know, but I'm just like, they'll do good enough, whatever, right? As long as I have a healer and a tank that I know works, like, we're good.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it would be super easy, especially with some of us are super geared. Some of us are like over 5.5K now, or like approaching it or whatever. And it's like, logically, you don't need a full group of, 5.5K geared people to do a beta dungeon. You could totally carry like a 3.8 or a 4.2 or whatever along with you, and like,
I do it daily.
Yeah, like you could do that easily and not be hindered at all. But the majority of players are just going to take the best geared person they can find to make it a fast, easy run. So like the people who need this stuff the most aren't getting the groups. Like, it was hard for them to get groups already, and they still can't get groups. For
me, it's like if somebody just sends me, hey, you know, Mage 4.4 or Mage 4.3, since they just took the time to send me to tell me what they had and what their class was, instead of just requesting invite to join, I'm like, okay, you're in. Like, you know, I'm just like, so I don't know. I think it works for some people, but yeah, like I've definitely at times formed friend groups that are just like, it's absurd how fast you go with like a full group of just like Ulduar bissed out characters. It's absurd, but
I think there's a solution Blizzard can do.
What is it?
So instead of people being able to pick and choose because people are posting their gear scores, if there was a system that randomly put the group together so that gear score didn't matter and people didn't get picked and chosen off of that might work. I don't know.
So you're talking about like
a crazy idea,
a dungeon group randomly?
Like
yeah.
Like that's something crazy, that's Blizzard, like automatic?
Yeah, it would just like form the group for you. And then you could still summon your group there if you wanted. Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. I wonder why they've never done that.
The people that need the loot could still get it.
It'd be cool if you did a system like that, and if you ran enough of those randomly, you got like a pet or something. That'd be sick.
Oh, yeah. Like a little like puppy or something.
Yeah. Oh, since it's like a pickup group, it could be a pug.
That's a great idea. I can't believe, dude, Blizzard, this is free. This is for you. It's for you. All right. Well, on that note, I think we should move on to the next question. Go. You want to go?
Yeah. All right, let me get the name. Who was it? Sheepme slash Ava. We've got hey Bob, Go, and Table, and Mel. Do you guys plan on talking about the effects the WoW token has had on the game? Now we have had it for a couple weeks and could maybe be commented on. I would find it interesting to see your thoughts on it now. I personally haven't noticed any changes, but I am not involved in the GDKP side of things. Has botting decreased? Have people quit the game over this like many said they would? Have GDKP prices been affected? Has the auction house seen any negative consequences? Or were people simply throwing their toys out of the pram over nothing? And I reported a bot 2 days ago. I was out in wetlands and I saw a level 77 Death Knight running around and going up to the mining nodes, the herb nodes, and picking them. And it was like totally obvious it was a script. So like that's the only real bot that I've seen.
Have you checked dungeons recently?
I've tried.
I know you like to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I slash who like Botanica. There's sometimes a couple like Pallies or DKs. I'll do Black Temple, Tempest Keep, a couple other dungeons. There's never usually like a full list or anything like that. Like back when botting was really, really bad, I'd do like slash who Zul'Farrak back in like phase 1, and it'd be like a full list of Death Knights in Zul'Farrak. But like no matter what dungeon I'm looking for bots now, like I just don't find it. But maybe they're just out in the open world more instead of in dungeons. I don't know.
What about you, Table?
I haven't really noticed a huge difference. Like GDKPs, I wasn't really running a whole lot of them until like a few weeks ago, and like it didn't really seem like
You love it,
prices
don't
were
you?
affected that much.
You're addicted,
It's
aren't you now?
definitely it's good for making money, but like I don't have a lot of gold, so it's like if I want something that somebody else wants, they're gonna get it because I have like 20K total, like if that.
That's how it starts.
Um,
But I mean, yeah, I started with 60K or so a couple months ago. And then now I'm sitting at over 200K. And I wasted 45K on a stupid item that I thought was a two-hander that was actually a one-hander. I'm so dumb. But like, yeah. So, I mean, you eventually get there. Like you know, so eventually, like, I'm going to be real broke, though, because I'm willing to fucking spend big on Comet's Trail for my main. But
yeah,
that's
I
gonna
feel like
break the bank, and I'll be back to poor again.
definitely it makes it easier on the back on the topic of like gearing alts and stuff like that. Definitely makes it easier to gear alts when you have a little bit of extra gold to throw around. Buy some BOEs off the auction house and stuff like that. Some old crafted stuff, even some of the new crafted stuff isn't too ludicrously priced or anything like that. But like I don't know, like the just going from the stuff, the prices that I saw stuff going for in GDKPs before they added in the token, and then like immediately after, didn't really seem like it was affected that much. Because like anybody who was RMTing is still RMTing with the same methods they were doing. Because I like 20 minutes ago I was in game on an alt and I looked at the token price. It's like 4160 on NA, like 4167 or something like that. So like no one's gonna pay $20 for 4.1k when they can spend $20 on a third party site and get like quadruple that amount at least. Like it didn't solve anything as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that made it the only real thing is that now players can subsidize their gameplay by buying game time with their in-game gold, which I have done already at least twice. So like that's the only thing that I see changing. That's the only way that it's affected me in a noticeable way is that now I'm not paying real money for my WoW sub anymore. Somebody else is because they bought the token.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything change. Like, I really haven't seen anything. I don't know a single person that quit the game over it. I'm sure there was a small percentage, maybe, but I'm pretty sure most of the people saying they would quit the game have already quit the game, and they're the people that just come back to bitch about the game and don't actually play the game. But I mean, I'm like, it's changed the fact that I don't pay for subs anymore. I'm paid up for 8 months on both accounts. Like, they'll be through the end of Wrath, I'm pretty sure. So, like,
yeah, people just like to overreact.
Yeah, that I think it's bad for the fact that it's down to 4.4K. Like, you know, I'm happy that the two that I bought, you know, day one and sold for both of them for over 11K. Like, so it's just a bummer that it's so cheap. Like, you're bleeding subs away. Like, you know, and people aren't getting much for that $20 that they spent. Like, it's not a good, like, I feel like 11, 12K for $20. I feel like that's fairly fair, right? Like, in this economy, and like, but I don't know how they make it go the other direction. Like, and I think probably changing it, because the difference in the retail coin and our coin is our coin can only be used to buy game time, whereas the retail coin can be used to turn into Blizzard balance. So you can buy merchandise, you can buy games, you can buy anything you want that's Blizzard balance. So that's what makes it pretty enticing on that side. Whereas for us, it's just like, okay, well, I'm paid up for 8 months. Like, I don't need any more tokens. So
if I could use it to buy something from the Blizzard store, I'd do that. I'd get me a sweatshirt, a hoodie, something. I'd use my gold to buy that. But yeah. I just got a message that you can get 12,000 gold from a certain website for $20. I can't leak who sent that to me, because it's definitely not just on my screen over here. But yeah, 12,000 gold for $20.
Code Scotty J.
I feel like if Blizzard actually wanted to like combat RMTing and like third party sites and stuff like that, their mistake was making the gold price of the token be based on supply and demand. Like, I've said this before, but like, if they just manually set the price of the token to whatever the third party sites are charging for $20 worth of gold or whatever, if they just put it close enough to that, and also cracked down a little bit more on not just the bots and the people that sell the gold, but like maybe like start giving out 3-day suspensions to people that buy the gold, pretty soon, as long as those prices are close enough to each other, people will not think that it's worth the risk to buy third party, and they'll just buy a token.
They've definitely,
and that'll fix the prices of stuff if they just manually set it instead of it being based on supply and demand. Because if it's supply and demand, there's no incentive for anybody to buy a token with money right now, because the amount you sell it for is so low.
Yeah, well, like, they've banned people that have bought gold many times in the past. Like, I've known a ton of people that have been like short banned for buying gold. It usually doesn't dissuade them for very long. They just learn to be a little bit smarter in the future. They get a second account that's an email that, you know, they just make a new email, second account. They just get it from there. They plug it into they join a guild on that account, get the gold mailed to them, put it into GBank, like, you know, and then like there's no real way to track it, you know. But like, it also makes people quit if you go really harsh, because like we had this one guy, it's mage in Vanilla Classic, and they were doing this thing where they were banning gold buyers and then deleting their epic mounts. So he came back after being suspended for buying gold because he worked a ton and just didn't have time to farm enough gold that it took to like be in our raid to properly do Naxx. Came back and his epic mounts were gone on both of his characters, and he was like, "Okay, I'm done. I quit." And it's just like, damn. You know, I don't say it's okay that he did what he did, but I say that like doing those types of punishments to buyers can hurt their actual player base quite a bit. And some people would say that's good. Get those people out of here, but I don't know. I'll just tell the story.
A small tangent, but kind of related. They said that they were take action against people that went back into ToGC because the lockouts got reset. And we had somebody in our previously in our guild go back in there and do another raid, I think. But I don't think he's gotten banned. So I wonder if they've banned anybody for going back in and getting an extra lockout. But the GDKP stuff, yeah, like our old war GDKP prices stayed about the same, but like TOGC prices are like double old war. Like right now, it's crazy. Like Death's Choice went for 125k. A couple other pieces went for like 40k plus. The trophies are going for like 12k, which was like about the price that tier was going for back in Old War.
We did normal a noob last week, right? And we got a Reign of the Dead dropped on normal, and that went for like
41.
Yeah, like more than I thought it would for it being a normal trinket.
Mm-hmm. And like our payout was over 20k, and like usually our Old War payout is about 10 on average. So yeah, like double the price for TOGC, and it takes. I mean, it was our first one in this new phase, so it took like 3 hours, but still like a good payout. You're muted, Bob.
I don't even know what I had a 27k payout the last 25 TOGC I did, and we didn't get a cape. We had 2 wipes.
But you still had hard mode a noob, right?
Yeah. And so the tier I think went for a lot.
Yeah, let me see what the tier went for.
But so everybody talks about bots and gold buying and RMT, but bots were initially the problem, but I think a big amount of the gold that's sold on websites now is from GDKP runners. Like, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying from GDKP runners. I'm not saying every one of them do that because I just don't know, but I think a lot of the gold comes from those things and not from bots anymore. So I don't know. It's a lot easier to run 2 accounts and do GDKPs rather than have the overhead of 50 bot accounts, like that could get banned, like it's a lot. It's a lot more work to do that than it is to run a GDKP.
That gold does have to come from somewhere though. Like somebody has to farm that gold to get it to.
Well, yeah, but we farmed it all into the economy now over the last, 3 expansions. And now the gold just keeps getting, that's why, GDKP runners take a cut, right? And like
just the same gold being circulated.
Yeah, and I know people like Pummel use it to like sometimes bring their mains into GDKPs, and then just all that extra dough that they've collected, he just like, if Pummel's coming on his main to any of your runs, you ain't gonna beat him in a bid, right? Like all of that gold is to make sure that his mains like keep pumping, right? So, but like other people are probably collecting that extra, and that's what they sell,
I've heard about some stuff of like people paying real money for a spot in a GDKP, and then like one person will just like vastly overpay for a bunch of stuff, so that like it's basically it's a built-in laundering, where like they're trying to buy gold, but they get brought into this GDKP where there's one person who is like the seller, like the gold seller, who is massively overpaying for a bunch of stuff, so that everybody who paid for a spot eventually ends up getting like their cut ends up being the amount that they paid for their spot worth of gold.
Well, and also people will just like, if they know the runner, they'll be like, hey, I'm sending you $100 Venmo. They tell them, okay, that's this much gold credit, and then they just trade them the item and mark down mark off the credit that just went, and then there's no gold changing hands.
Yeah, which is even sketchier.
Yeah, you don't even see it happen. Yeah,
I think that's probably, honestly, that's the one change that I have noticed about adding the token is that now people have an actual official direct way to like say how much something went for. Like if somebody pays, $4K for something, like, oh, that's a $20 item, according to the token. to the token price. Somebody pays, 20K for something, like, whoa, that person just paid, that's $80 worth of gold, worth of Blizzard gold. Like,
yeah, what would my 45K ups have been? It would have been what, $90 or no,
40 bucks, something like that.
oh no, more than that. 45 divided by 5 would be 9. 9 times 20 would be $180.
Yeah.
That was $180 whoops, or a 9 months sub whoops. Like, look at it in both of those ways. Okay. But I just guess I still don't look at it like that. I did initially, but now I'm like, whatever. Like,
it's too much math. Like, it was funny. It was like a meme for like the first couple of weeks, but now it's too much math. Nobody cares.
Have either of you used the auction house since the token came out? Because I usually farm my own stuff, so I don't really know if it's affected the AH at all.
I mean, I don't, since consumes have been so cheap for the longest time, like, it's just a drop in the bucket. Like, even like doing things like I worked up engineering from 0 to max because I couldn't handle it anymore on my second rogue. Like, I thought sprint would be enough, but it's just not. And so, like, and the bank and everything else. So I worked it up, and it only took, I think, a total of 6K. So 1 WoW token or 1.5 WoW tokens. But like, it was, everything's pretty cheap. So I just don't even notice it. Like, sappers are, a buck 38, like flasks are like 7 to 9 gold, depending on the day. It kind of fluctuates. Gems have kind of steadied out, like anywhere from 120 to 320 gold, depending on the cut. But
I was surprised by that because, I was looking at like a 20 hit gem and it was like 250 gold. I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought they were going to be super cheap, but yeah, probably not.
I thought so too, but it turns out
for sure under 100 gold each.
I thought just because everybody had so many gems they could get, but I mean, we're tearing through gear, and like, everybody that's lower gear even wants to put those gems in the lower gear. So I don't know. Yeah, I can't say that I've seen any changes because
Same
of it.
thing happened in TBC though. Like, even without the token, like the beginning of a phase, gems always go up in price, and then once you get halfway through the phase, prices go down a little bit again. When Epic Gems came out with Hyjal and BT and whatever, when those were added to the game, those kind of stayed the price that the blue quality gems were before, and then the blue quality gems dropped in price, and then the green quality gems were like worthless.
Do the green gems still sell for more than you sell them for a good amount more than you sell them for from the vendor? I think it's just because you use them in different things, but
there's a few things you can do with it. Like, there's like the JC dailies use them. The frozen orb prices have not dropped. If anything, they've gone up because you can get epic gems out of the icy prism that you can make from jewel crafting. So frozen orb prices are going to stay pretty high.
They're going to go down because
eventually they will. Yeah.
Well, just because I've done a bunch of them. I've yet to get an epic gem out of it. So
I got an epic the first time I did one in phase 3, and I haven't gotten one since, but like, I still do it every day. And then like, you can still do like Serenite Shuffle stuff. You buy the green quality gems, combine them with like Eternal Earths or whatever, and make like the jewelry stuff. You can either vendor it or DE it, sell the DE mats, like that sort of thing. So like, you can still kind of quantify how much those should be worth based on the things you can make out of it and whatever. So like, those prices I see as like remaining pretty stable because you're going to be able to get the same amount of gold from vendoring a necklace or a ring that you make with those green gems for the whole expansion. So like, those prices I would expect to stay relatively consistent. It's the blue quality gems and the epic gems that'll fluctuate.
I'm wondering about fish because I don't really fly around too often anymore, but I don't know of anybody that's actually going out and fishing, but we're still using multiple fish feast every single raid. Like, are there fishing bots maybe that are like running the fishing market?
Well, I mean, if everybody's doing their fishing daily, right? Like,
I haven't done that in a long time.
But you get a ton of those. You get a ton of the mats for it, though. And then you can also trade in those tokens for a ton of the mats too. Like people have probably
like
just.
spice.
I mean, I know Kim Jong-un has thousands, like hundreds of stacks, like in mailboxes and different G banks across his different accounts. Like he's just got them for the rest of the expansion.
Yeah.
I think people are just saving up.
That I've done where I got mats for feast was when it's the wintergrass one to get the terror fish.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to fish open water in wintergrass, but you can get sculpin and nettlefish and salmon from wintergrass. Whereas if you go anywhere else, like it's slightly different fish depending on where you fish for this stuff. So like, I don't know, like fishing bot could be a thing, I guess, but like, I don't know. It's obviously it has to all come from somewhere, and I don't normally.
I haven't fished forever.
Sitting there fishing.
Yeah, I just don't know. I haven't been around to see if people are fishing.
The only place that whenever I go to fish anything and I see other people there, it's when I go to that lake in Dragonblight to get my dragonfin. There's always like a couple people circling around trying to get the pools to the point where like I just fish open water in the lake and I end up with a bunch of snappers too. So like that's the hit food one. So like I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to do and where you are, but like I would assume that probably people are just fishing open water for a specific fish and then just saving everything else that they get and making feast out of it and putting it on the auction house or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to fly around sometime now and just see if people are fishing places. Yeah,
I'm just glad I use armor pen food now. I've gone back and forth between using agility, strength, and armor pen food for like the whole expansion. Agility and strength food use the same fish, so it's whatever. But like armor pen food, I went to Borean Tundra for like 20 minutes and just killed rhinos for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes and got like 3 stacks of rhino meat. It was great.
Rhino killer.
Yeah, Dita was not happy.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things when you just get enough gold, you're like I'm even so horrible that I have enough gems and everything to cut my own gems on the different accounts, but I just buy them. And then I just sell all the gems I cut, like on my other guy. Like, and I'm just like, well, the gold's like, it's coming back to me. Like, I'm just not spending the time now to go to my other account, worry about trading it back over. Like, I'm just going to the auction house, grabbing the stuff, gemming my new gear. I can do all the enchants too on my second rogue. But instead of making that and sending the scroll over, I just buy the enchant, and then I just make enchants and sell them on the auction house when I have a whole bunch of mats like saved up. Like,
I just send my gems to Table, and Table mails them back. So it's like I'm in no rush. I send him like 10 gems at a time. I'm like, yo man, can you get me like 10, 23 spell power gems? And then a couple hours later, bada bing, bada boom, I'm good to go.
I do that for other people too. When I get a new piece of gear after raid, you'll see, like, I never feel comfortable until I've gemmed it, slotted it, put it in my item rack for that set, and then marked it off of my spreadsheet. Because if I don't do that, then I get on, I do 3 weeks of raids and realize, oh, I never put a gem in my gun. Whoops.
I forgot to get my meta gem active until I was testing something right before we went live.
Dude.
And I was like, what? Like, why am I not getting the 3% crit bonus?
Dude, my freaking warrior was in shambles, dude. So, like, recently I got just a ton of different gear for my Fury set. And for some reason, I check this on my rogue every time I swap out gear. But I had, for some reason, on my warrior, only checked hit and forgot to look at expertise. I was down to 7 expertise out of the 26 you're supposed to have. I was like, well, this isn't good. And then as I'm fixing the expertise, I realized my metagem's not active. And I'm like, when did I trade out my tier? Because I just used one of the nightmare tiers to activate that gem, the 3% crit. And I was just like, I switched that out at some point. I don't even know when I switched. It could have been not active for 4 weeks. And I wouldn't even have known. I was like, I felt like I was getting better, and I got this new sword, and I'm just not doing damage. And I'm like, what the hell? It's because they're dodging everything from behind, and I'm freaking. And I'm also not having my meta. It was just he was in a bad shape.
Yeah, so if you've gotten gear recently in the past week or two, check your meta socket, make sure it's active.
Check your meta. Make sure you check your soft caps, your hard caps. Like, so dumb.
That's why those simming sites are nice, because you could just build the set. Like if you get an upgrade and you want to figure out which gem you should put in which piece or whatever, like you can select all the stuff to give yourself the different raid buffs and whatever that you would normally have in a raid, and then you can fit everything around that instead of having to like sit there in game with like a calculator, like trying to figure out like, okay, if I have this much more crit rating, like no math involved, the sim does it all for you.
Yep. Yeah, well, and we used add-on of the week last week was WoW Sims Exporter, and that's the one that just you get the export, you copy paste it over to the GitHub site. I found out you could do it with 80 upgrades also. Okay.
Yeah, I do 80 upgrades. It's so nice. But I of course I use that add-on that you mentioned too. I've got that one downloaded in the game right now
You actually use
good
it?
one.
Really?
It's a good what was it called again?
WoW
famous
Sims
enjoyer of
Exporter.
add-ons.
Well,
yeah, that one.
It's just
that.
nice because it it's sorry, there's some commotion going on. It's good because you just export it and it puts all your gear, enchants, gems, talents, everything, glyphs right in there. All you have to do is make sure you set the fight parameters, like how long the fight is, duration, things of that nature, what raid buffs you have, all of that stuff. But most of that stuff's pretty standard. But it's just nice because then you could easily do it and then just switch out one item.
Yep.
Instead of having to manually go in and build the set from scratch.
Yeah, and put in the gems and put in the enchants. Like that stuff can take a long time. Like I don't see how people mess with it if they don't have the exporter. Like it's just crazy to me. But we've kind of gotten off the topic. I think our general.
I was gonna derail it further there.
Did you have
onto the sim?
Oh, did you have something else you wanted to talk about with that?
You just got to be really cautious of the eye level of the gear that you're putting into the sim, because right now there's like 3 pieces of loot that has the same name but different eye level. So like you might see like different stats in game and on the sim, and it could just be because you put like a normal mode piece instead of a heroic mode piece or something.
Yeah.
Or like the wrong tier eye level piece. You put the 232 instead of 245 or something. So
yeah, and you got to be careful. Sure. And then there's the Horde and Alliance, different names. Oh my gosh, freaking nightmare for the bistless people.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to go by the icon too, because they're different icons too. Even if they have like the same name, they're different icons.
Who's looking at the icons table?
Me, dude. I'm huge into the aesthetics, bro.
I mean, the Horde icons are better than the Alliance icons. I'm just saying.
Oh, the Alliance!
Now that I think of that, though, my shirt kind of looks like the Alliance icons of the gear.
Nomragon!
We're all about Allie here. Yeah. So yeah, to end the thing, I haven't seen any changes from the WoW token, to be honest. I can't think of any. If you guys have any, send them in, email them in, put a comment in the YouTube, send us a voicemail. Yeah, let us know. What have you guys been doing in WoW lately? What you been doing?
You want to go first, Table?
Sure. Of course, as we all know, the Hardcore PTR went live. So I made a couple characters. I have a druid at 10, chilling at Dolinar right now. And I made a caves only character, of course. I had to do that. So only caves is now level 11. I haven't played in like a few days, but died at level 1, getting into the initial cave in Coldridge Valley. That's The dangerous part is fighting level 3 and 4 mobs at level 1, but once you get past that, it's pretty smooth sailing until you get to the like 14-ish range. So that's been fun.
What's the highest you've gotten in a caves only character?
14. I made it all the way through Skull Rock as a dwarf. I ran and swam. Like took the tram to Stormwind, ran through Westfall, swam to Booty Bay, and took the boat to Ratchet, and then ran to Durotar. Grinded from 12 to 14 through Skull Rock, and then went back to Loch Madan, and almost immediately died in the Kobold Mine.
Dude, that is a dangerous mine, dude. This is dangerous.
I was testing an evade spot, and I had 2 mobs on me instead of 1. Like normally when I try and test an evade spot, I only pull 1 mob and then jump to the spot, see if it works. But I had 2 on me, and I was like so confident that the spot was going to work that I jumped into it, but one of the mobs was too close and was still hitting me, and I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. And I died. So yeah, 14 is the highest I've been, but every time something bad happens, I learn from it at least. But it's been fun. It's fun to do it on like an actual like official permadeath server where like for sure that if you make a mistake, that's it. And I've been through 2 disconnects because there was a bug where if you got hit with a like any sort of effect that caused you to lose control of your character, whether it was a stun or even like a root,
CC'd in the air,
yep, or like even like a daze or whatever, and you were in the air because you jumped or whatever, it would DC you, and a lot of people died because of that. I was fortunate on this in the current only caves that I'm doing that I got DC'd, immediately logged back in, and I was fine. I got layered a couple times and was fine, but like it's definitely, it brings a different level of like danger when it's not just like the add-on. Like if you get DC'd with the add-on on like Blood Sale, if it's a DC, they say like, okay, that's not under your control, you can keep going. But on the official server, if you DC and die because of it, go again. Like that's it. Like, so there's something kind of refreshing about that almost, where it's like if you die, if no matter what caused you to die, whether or not it was your fault, or whether it was a server thing, whether it was a grief, like whatever it was, if you die, you're dead. And that's like that's hardcore.
I kind of like that too, because like I don't know, like when I was working up, we had the Soul of Iron when I did my 2 characters, and if I lost the Soul of Iron buff because of a death that was appealed, I would have just started over. Like I wouldn't have done an appeal death. Like I don't know. Maybe if it was like a crazy griefer or something, but even if it was somebody pulling, like it was a grief that I couldn't control, because somebody pulling terror, like the big dragon into Stormwind, like I mean, if you're doing everything you can do to have the best success that you can, you have unit scan and he's on there. The second he gets like anywhere close to you in your zone, and that's time to take the fuck off. Like you have to, like, watching for that type of stuff is part of the fun too, so yeah, I don't know. But I guess like if you're in Loch Modan and someone pulls down like one of the things from, what was it? Where would they pull stuff down for Loch Modan? They'd pull them down from like wetlands or something.
There's like some dragons in the Badlands that you can.
Yeah, they pull up stuff from the Badlands, but like that, you're probably not going to have unit scan on. That can be kind of sketchy, but you still should have eyes in the back of your head when you're playing hardcore. And if something sketchy's going on, like when Go and I were going, those 2 guys were trying to pull mobs into you and then feign death or vanish, and we just kept a good eye on him, right? Like, it was just it added a little more to it. So I don't know. I do like just you're just dead, but because of that, they do need to work through a lot of different stuff, and it's good that they're finding things, and that there's people like you willing to test the PTR servers.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think like my goal was to try and get to, I think the cap right now is 30. I wanted to get to 30 on a caves only before they shut down the PTR. But I don't know if that's going to happen, because it's the way that I'm doing it. I'm using all the same restrictions that I use on Blood Sale, and it just takes forever because I'm grinding only. Like I'm not doing quests. So like to grind from 1 to 30 is like no matter where you're doing it, whether or not it's in a cave or just anywhere, grinding from 1 to 30 takes forever. So I don't
Unless
know
it's
if
AoE.
right, which I'm playing as a rogue for that, so it's not something that I'll have access to until I get Blade Flurry, and even then it's only 2 things, every 2 minutes.
Yep.
But other than
Yep.
that, like I started I have 2 ferals on Wrath, the main, and then I have an alt. The alt's gear is like pretty good now because we've done some TOGC and stuff like that. Like he's at like 5200 gear score, which is, and he
Nice.
just got a runestone with Sidereals like the other day. So like he's like actually like a legit character now, which is kind of weird to think about. Like me and Go were talking about that the other day about how like when your alt becomes not your shitty geared alt anymore and it's just another character you have, it's kind of wild to like, well, wow, okay, this is just another character I have.
Yep.
So
One of my
now
rogues is 5.4 and one's 5.2.
yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So I've started to kind of turn my focus towards my other 80 that I have, which is a Death Knight. So I have he's Frost right now, and he's got a Blood Tank spec as his second spec. And I've been thinking about whether or not I want to switch from Frost to Unholy for the DPS spec, because just the level of complexity that Unholy has appeals to me as a feral player. So I'm thinking about doing that, but his gear is still pretty bad. So it's another fun challenge. Like anytime you gear up a fresh alt, or not even just a fresh alt, just gearing up alts in general is like a separate little adventure, and it's been pretty fun.
Awesome. Go. What you been doing?
I also hopped on the hardcore PTR, but I only made 1 toon, and it's only level 17 or 18. It's a druid, of course, horde, and I might try to go into RFC and solo RFC, see how much I can get done. I got to figure out what like the maximum level is, if it's like 18 or 20 or whatever it is, and I'll get to that and then go in there and try to solo it. But I don't know. It's the PTR, so I'm not too worried about it. I tried to do my part and be there on like as close to launch day as I could, because I know they were trying to like test server stability and everything. So, but now it's just like, like everybody's already done these quests that I'm gonna get to, so I'm not in any hurry to level that toon. And then on Wrath, we did 3 10-mans that I was involved in on Tuesday, because I've got 3 boomies on Man Creek. So it was all like back to back. Like as a guild, we did 5 in a row. Like our normal run, we didn't have enough people because it was the 4th of July. So like we just did a bunch of 10-mans, and I was in like the first, second, missed the third, and then I ran in the 4th. And 2 of the 3 were 50-50 runs. Or maybe all 3 of them were. I think all 3 of mine were. And like 4 out of the 5 guild runs were 50-50. So like we've got 10-man down. And then 25-man, we got the dreaded 49 out of 50 last night. We had the one a noob wipe, I think it was.
Oh.
And it was just like, man, penetrating cold deaths, man, they get you every time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot easier once healers are like, they have their, they're synced up with their add-ons. One of the biggest problems I've seen with that is healers having different cold add-ons and different weak auras that don't communicate properly with each other. So like the GDKPs I've been in, they've been like, listen, healers, now delete anything you have and download this one right here that I'm leaking in chat. Like they're doing that before each poll. And even my main raid did that before, like we started last night. Or yeah, we pushed our main raid also because of 4th of July.
But yeah, I've been loving it. Like I love doing the 10-mans. I still love going back to Ulduar, except for doing achievements. But I started an EU toon. So I'm level 72 on Mograine over on EU in Scotty J's guild.
Okay.
And it's nice because it gives me something to do while I'm at work. Because like doing dungeons is kind of sketchy. Definitely can't like raid while I'm working for the most part. But yeah, leveling a new tune, I can do that. So
You still on your whole thing about um, guilds not being able to take out a noob fast? Because remember, you were big on. You thought it was going to be a noob was going to be a huge blocker, but I think you might need to retract that statement now.
I don't know. I don't think I do. Like I think for our guild personally, we've done a lot better and we've run it a lot smoother than what I thought we would. We got 50-50 week 2 this week. I don't know why. Like I joined the raid, like I joined Discord usually like 5 minutes before we pull, and I guess they were discussing like doing a speed run. And then like we get in there and they're like rushing after every boss fight to get the second RP going for the next fight. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like we're going for 50-50, right? Like why are we rushing for speed? Like so like
Especially with something that's so fast.
yeah, rushing for speed, like I think ended up being our downfall. Like we had a kind of scuffed fight for every single of the 5 fights. Like Beast, we almost wiped on Beast because we were like rushing, trying to get the pool started, trying to go. And it's just like, whoa, what, like, why? We need to just slow it down. And if we want 50-50, take it easy. Like make sure all the assignments are out and correct before the pool. Soul stones are out. People know who's bopping. Penetrating cold targets. The healers know who they're healing, who's soakers, what area are they. Like there's so many things that like just need to get nailed into people after a couple of weeks. And then, yeah, if you want to try to do speed 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks down the line from now, sure. But
I think
I don't know. I thought we were going for 50-50.
You changed the subject though here. You said a lot of guilds were going to struggle,
right.
but I just
Our
posted the numbers though.
The number. Oh, I don't even know how to look at that. What are the numbers? What's the clear rate?
So basically, right now, let me do the quick math. So that would be 2,500, 3K. So 4,482 guilds have beat hard heroic a noob and dang it, I just lost my. And 3,000 guilds roughly have not beaten a noob. So, yeah, we're already over the 50% mark by quite a bit. Whereas at this time in Ulduar, that was basically like only like 10% of guilds had went 53 or 54 out of 54. So yeah, but it's for the same reason I told you it was. There's only one hard boss to progress, so therefore like it's going to be faster than Ulduar. Even though that's a very hard boss, it's still just one instead of a ton of really hard.
I don't know if I specified that it was like clearing all hard modes. I think I was saying like the length of the raid time too. I said like it's going to still take raids like 3 hours, their full raid night to do the raid, which I don't think you can look at the clear time. Like how long did it take those 4,000 guilds to do it? Are they all 30-minute runs? Are some of them 4-hour run? Like what's the percentage of those that took 3 to 4 hours to full clear on hard mode? How many of those are 45 out of 50 runs? How many are 25 out of 50 runs?
Be interesting to see.
Yeah, progression, like I totally agree. Like progression is a lot easier than Ulduar. But
you're meaning to say is Bob was right and I was wrong. That's what you're meaning to say.
You misinterpreted me. That's what it was.
I feel like to kind of piggyback a little bit, like I feel like just saying 5 out of 5, I feel like that doesn't go far enough to look for like progression rankings. Like just to say that you kill the last boss, like when there is an extra criteria above just killing the last boss, when you have the the attempts remaining sort of thing, like I don't know if there's a way for Warcraft logs to even see if there was I mean, you could pull up any log and you can see whether or not they wiped, but it should be easy enough for Warcraft logs to be able to figure out through like context clues whether a guild killed a noob and it was a 50 out of 50 or if it was a 49 out of 50, just by looking at the log that was uploaded and seeing if there were any one. So I feel like I don't think that just having, 1 out of 5 through 5 out of 5, I don't think that that's enough for Warcraft logs to have on the progress rankings. I feel like they should have a separate category for get 5 out of 5. That's like one plateau. And then get the 25 chest, get the 45 chest, and get the 50 chest. Like those should be the levels that they show. So it should be really like 7 or 8 categories instead of just 1 through 5 out of 5. It should be, those plus
similar to the point system from Old War.
Kind of, yeah. Like I feel like there should be
so you
something
get added
like that
more
also.
points. Yeah, it could just be points added based on wipes. Like, it's a point each. It's an extra point every time you go down. So 50 is the full amount of points. I don't know how many total points it would be, but then whatever the next one down is, what is it? Is it 45 is the next one? That would
the next chest, yeah.
Yeah, that would subtract another point. So I think all in all, it'd be a total of like 4 or 5 points. So then you'd have a point system that lets you know, okay, we got 10 out of 10. That's a full 50 run a noob, right? With no wipes.
And then you could even take it a step further and because there's another achievement for ToGC, the tribute to immortality, to get 50 attempts remaining with no deaths. Like that could be another one on top of that even. Because you can get 50 chests, that's fine. But you can still get a 50 chest if people are dying on fights. You can kind of scrape by and kill the bosses and whatever, even if you have a few people dead. But to do it the whole way through 50 attempts remaining with no deaths is a separate level of coordination and execution that you have to be able to do that. So if they had even another one on top of that for immortality, I think that would be cool too. Because then it's to not die, you have to play a little differently. If you're trying to do we saw the same thing in Naxx with the mortal runs, where people were running slightly different talent setups they might normally run, different glyph setups, whatever, maybe even slightly
different flasks.
Yeah,
people were running resist flasks on certain fights and then health flasks on certain fights, DPS, even.
So I think it'd be interesting to have a separate parse category for immortal runs as well, because if you're changing things up and you're sacrificing personal DPS to be able to guarantee that you're going to survive, obviously you're going to parse lower. You're going to have slightly lower parses. But if you can compare yourself in that situation to other players of your spec who are also in that same situation, that's a little bit more of a fair comparison. And it might even encourage people to try and push it a little bit instead of it being 5 out of 5.
That's a good point. I always wished there was you could see parses for an undying run in Naxx and only the undying parses. Also, I've been really wanting this for a long time. Is say you're a rogue set on expose, right? I want a separate parse category for rogues that expose. You could do it easy. Just you need to have 98% uptime on the boss with expose up, and you get put into the expose category where you get to see how you're standing up to the other rogues that are in the unfortunate situation where they have to expose every week, right?
Yeah,
that's something I've wanted forever. And same with anything that sacrifices your own personal DPS for the good of the raid. I think that should be in a different category, but it's a ton of different stuff. So I get why they're bro,
yeah,
we ain't doing that.
You have to do one for there's a few you'd have to do it for too, like elemental shamans, if they have to drop Totem of Wrath because you don't have a paladin with Heart of the Crusader or an assassination rogue with Master Poisoner, then the elemental shaman has to drop Totem of Wrath.
Doesn't that only really happen in 10-mans and stuff? 10-man's
pretty much, yeah.
10-man parsing, I don't think really matters. Some people might be really into it, but I do so many things on 10-man, that are just if I'm running with a group struggling on Freya hard mode, we don't have a hunter, then I'll use crippling poison and wound poison, which just drops my DPS by 30%, so, but like it's needed there. But I'm saying stuff you have to do in raids, like 25-man raids. Somebody has to do armor pen, you know. But like something like a hunter with aim shot, it should be in their rotation anyway. Like, so I don't really see that as like a different category. But if you have a single warrior and he's doing all of the sunders, like it should be a different, you know, category for sure, you know. And like I'm sure there's other cases I just can't think of at the moment, but
or like there's Blizzard, or not Blizzard, Warcraft Logs has done something along these lines already with how they've separated out damage contribution from tricks of the trade, and stuff like that. They separate it so it's not attributed to the player that received the buff, but it's also not attributed to the player who cast the buff. What if instead
it's given to an NPC?
Right. So what if instead they just attribute the extra damage that the raid as a whole did because of that debuff, the debuff that was applied? What if they just attribute that to the player who cast it? And then you can see, okay, they're doing this. That's helping the raid do extra damage. Here's the extra damage the raid did because of this, attributed to the player who did the debuff.
Well, in tricks, that you'd be incentivized to tricks the best DPS that you had in your raid. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and like
and the tank is really like there's a lot of things where like you should be like if you're doing general physics and you're a rogue, like your DPS don't freaking matter, bro, except in the last phase, like in the last part when you kill the animus. Like you should be tricksing that poor tank on cooldown. Like you shouldn't be tricksing somebody for extra damage so that you could wait an extra 30 seconds at the, you know, once he gets to 5%, you know, like there's certain times when you should just be tricksing the hell out of your tanks and people don't.
Maybe tricks is the wrong example to use.
Tricks might be just a bad example for it.
But I mean, like there's other games that have a similar thing, like Final Fantasy 14, for example. They have a logs site as well, FF logs, and they
it's done by the same people.
Yeah, and they do basically exactly what I said. Is like they like any debuff that you bring to the raid as whatever job you're playing, the amount of damage that the raid did because of that, there's a separate parse category for that. There's like the raw damage that you did, that everybody did, there's raw damage, and then there's a separate damage category for damage contribution based on your debuffs and stuff like that as well. So like there's several different categories that you can look at based on what you're counting towards each player.
That system is why they decided to pull out tricks and stuff, is because they do both of those. So they used that idea and brought it over here, and I think it's been good. Like,
I think the main problem is that there are so many different sources of all the debuffs that, like, you know, you got Expose and you got Sunder, you got Earth and Moon and the one that DKs bring, you got Master Poisoner, Heart of the Crusader, Totem of Wrath. You got Rampage and the Leader of the Pack. Like there's so many different sources of all of these. Like how do you decide what is the fair thing to do as with regard to like who gets attributed to that thing? Because if you have two assassination rogues, it's just whoever gets poisons on the boss first gets the Master Poisoner debuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that true?
Yeah. Because it's applied when the target is poisoned. So like if one of the assassination rogues gets a poison up first, it's their Master Poisoner debuff. So if they were doing the thing where they're, you know, attributing the extra damage based on each debuff that was for each person, what if you have duplicates of people? Like how do you divvy up that damage? It's a one person. It's like the Ignite thing in vanilla, where like one mage, the first mage who got a crit, they got the Ignite up, and all the other mages fed it, and that mage was pumping.
But anything that's like fed in like that, like through normal rotations, I think should just be. But you hear that, assassination rogues? You best get that first hit.
Yeah.
But like anything like Expose or Sunder could be something you could totally do. Like it's just like, do you have uptime on it? You know, like. But I guess if you had multiple rogues, it would just be dumb for them to be trading off like multiple combat rogues. Be dumb for them to be trading off exposed armor, because they just screw both themselves. Like one person would just be like, talk to the other rogue and be like, yo, bro, I got exposed. You know, like when I do a GDKP, I talk to the warriors right at the start. If there's one warrior, I'm like, okay, dude, I'm on exposed. And then if there's two, I'm like, hey, you got two warriors. You guys mind doing sunders? You know, like, 'cause, you know, so like you're usually going to figure that out prior, but you just have to have uptime. And then for warriors, it'd be whichever warrior is going, decides that he's okay with refreshing the 5 sunders. And then he would get put into that parse category as long as he refreshed it 98% of the fight, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what other ones we can
complicated
do.
sounds, and it makes me understand why they haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely complicated. But yeah, that was a tangent. So what have I been doing? I finished the long strange trip. I don't know if I talked about that last week. I don't think I did. But I got my purple violet proto drake. And yeah, I'll never do that again. But it was a long strange trip. It was fun. It was fun to just see it all because I'd never done any of those holiday things throughout the original release. So I got that done.
Nice little bucket list thing.
Yeah, just because I never did it, you know, why not? It was something that I think Mel found fun in different situations too, and so did that. Just been raiding a ton. Still, like, it's
So I'm sure
crazy.
your weekend guild probably is 5 out of 5, right? Because it's so easy, and you guys must have done it sub 1 hour, right?
Did we do?
No, you didn't. Nope. You did normal and noob. I have it right here.
Did we do normal?
He
Yeah,
has the receipts.
I couldn't remember because my GDKP, I did like all 4 of those raids. I did my weekend raid, then the GDKP right after the GDKP. We had 2 wipes.
Maybe this was the GDKP then. Oh no.
And
okay.
we killed hard a noob, but we didn't get the cape. But then the weekend raid, I think the weekend raid wasn't full.
See that's what I was thinking though. Like your weekend raid type, like our GDKP type, like that type of raid environment where it's gonna be harder.
We flew through.
Take longer.
Yeah, we flew through, and then didn't get hard mode a noob. But like at the same time, we haven't really stressed pushing any harder than 1 night a week so far. Like we've only done Saturday, and we want to get VOA and Ani done too. So we end up trying a few times, and then we're like, okay, we'll switch it to normal and go do the other. But like, because we've had such roster problems, we're like, well, I ain't trying to get together tomorrow for it again, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, and that raid also, you know, has how long was Ulduar?
Oh, like weeks wise, like what, 22, 23 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that raid has 18 weeks less Algalad loot than the weekday raid. So the difference in DPS there, you know, we can't even know if it's skill or not. We just know that there's a way different eye level difference between that raid and the weekday raid, right? So So on that raid, we're still trying for a noob. I'm hoping tomorrow night we can get the hard mode a noob down. I'm hoping we have a full roster. If Go would just quit doing his stupid GDKPs, he could come to that raid normally, and we would be so much stronger. But he's too cool for us.
What night was it?
Saturday nights.
Saturday night. Yeah. I might be done with the GDKP, so I'm available tomorrow night. Let's just say that.
Okay, I'll let Harskar know.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, Bob, this is like a tiny tangent. Who's main tanking a noob in your main raid and in the second raid?
Same guy, different dudes. Yip's
What
doing it.
class?
Paladin on both of them, but
Both of them. Okay.
one Paladin's like 54, like 5.4k gear score. The other Paladin, we've been getting him beefed up, but remember, I was the main tank until just a few weeks before the end of Ulduar, and I asked to be moved to off tank / DPS because I felt like just like warrior tanking is something that healers have to like completely change the way they think about healing. It's a completely different way, and I felt like I was griefing the raid staying the main tank. So his character, and Mel was the off tank for the longest time, and he was Rhett and just collecting the third scraps of tanking gear, right? So he was really low, like 4,800 when we went into ToC, but he's gotten a whole bunch of upgrades now. So I think he's like I think he's over 5K, but I don't think he's even 5.1K yet. So, so it's a very big difference in that. And then I'm off tanking ads, and a DK is off taking ads in the weekend raid, and then in the weekday raid, same DK, like same person, different higher gear score DK is taking the ads, and then another paladin's taking the ads, and then Yip's main taking. So
no bears, huh?
No bears.
Damn, dude, what a shame.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, no bears. But yeah, so like also like just having the nature res has been a huge difference in how a lot of guilds have went. Like a lot of guilds thought be able to power through it and really didn't mess with the head enchant, the lesser flask of resistance, and the cape enchant. But guilds are starting to be proved through logs now that, dude, you're effectively doing a ton of DPS by not healing a ton. Like, so like, yep. Yeah. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes, but in my main raid, last night, we wiped on freaking faction champs. Our second rogue was late, right? And like we started to go to infection champs. I was like, I don't know, guys. Without two rogues and all the different poisons, I don't know that our burn strat, because we do the AoE burn strat. So warlocks multi-dot, rogues, fan of knives, spreading poisons everywhere, and DKs, pestilence or whatever it's called, right? And then
everywhere.
Anybody else just single targets the one single target, but we're basically doing a lot of AoE that's not classified as AoE. So, but I was like, I don't know that this works without an extra rogue. But then it wasn't even really the extra rogue that I think was the problem. I didn't have Tremor Totem. So the first two wipes, I was just running all over the place. Like, and finally they gave me Tremor Totem and it worked a lot better. And we did it without the other rogue. But then we went through, and then I don't think we wiped on anything else going into a noob. And then a noob, we had to wait for the rogue to get home. So we took a big old loot break. It was about a 15, 20-minute break. Everybody went in and enchanted new gear they had, gemmed it and stuff. Then the rogue got there. We one-shot a noob. And I was like, God damn it. We could have just had our cloak. Like, if we'd just been a little carefuler on the first fights. I think the first fights are really going to screw over a lot of people on cloaks because of what Go talked about. Just trying to go too fast when there's no need to go fast in this raid. Like, give everybody a breather between every pull. Like, that's the way I see it. But
yeah, there's not really a handful of things that'll like outright one shot you. Like getting hit by Ice Howl's charge, that'll one shot you. Not changing colors on twins when you should. When the vortexes are coming, that'll kill you. You know, stuff like that. But like, you know, to wipe, something has to fall through the cracks. Like multiple things have to go wrong for things. Like even if Ice Howl hits somebody, you can trank it. You can trank him. Like he enrages, but a hunter can trank shot. So like there's ways out of everything. Like you have to, something more has to be wrong to actually wipe on stuff. And usually, like you said, it's just from trying to go too fast. Like slow down, you know, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yep. Go ahead and remind everybody of just the few of the fight mechanics before you start. Like, yeah. And I mean, yeah, I feel like that would help a lot. But yeah, we one shot a noob and felt pretty damn good about that. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's been my week. It's been doing a ton. Yeah.
The NR thing that you mentioned is definitely it's bigger than people realize. Like Mining Go's main raid this week, we wiped on a noob because we had only one shaman, and we didn't have nature res. So there was more damage going out from the swarm, and so the healers were like kind of overcompensating a little bit, and it just kind of like spiraled a little bit. Like it was like a little bit of panic was palpable in the raid, and it didn't go very well. So we lost our 50 out of 50. I think we killed it the next attempt, so we got 49. But like still, like if we had just taken it a little more carefully, like had one of the hunters go aspect to the wild instead, like that would have made a huge difference. But like it's crazy how much of a difference the NR thing actually makes. Like there's people who are like having their healers pop NR flasks for phase 3 because like you kind of don't want the extra spell power from a spell power flask because you don't want your heals to heal for too much because then Leeching Swarm does more damage. And like tanks specifically, like I main tank a noob on my druid and I have an actual NR set. Like it's not like gear that has NR on it, but like I do like the helm enchant, the cloak enchant. I even went and got the violet eye shoulder enchant. I have the TBC leatherworking chest enchant, and I have the enchanting void spheres, the gems that enchanters can make for the +4 to all resists. So like right before we pulled a noob last night, I had shadow protection from a priest, and I had frost protection aura from a paladin. So with all of my resist stuff, including the flask and everything as well, I had 211 frost resist and shadow resist, and we didn't have the NR one, and my nature resist was still 209.
Wow.
So you can, and I didn't have to. My gear is more or less the same. Like I didn't really change out any actual gear. I just changed out a few gems and some enchants. So like my threat was unaffected.
The ring's pretty sick.
The Ani rings, yeah, you can have
the
both.
Ani
You
rings.
can have the 10-man and the 25-man at the same time. That's an extra plus 55.
Then I switch out trinkets from my health trinkets to like just straight up like dodge trinkets or whatever. Like I switch out those, and then I switch out and then I use the lesser flask of resistance rather than a health flask, and then I got a real good tip from Zunder, because like when you're tanking the ads, like those ice patches, if you're playing on heroic, you move at the speed of snail. Like getting out of those, you want to just take the closest path out instead of trying to walk through. But I had been calling for freedoms, right? And that works good. But a great tip Zunder, friend of the show, gave me was intervene one of the heals. I was like, oh my God, dude, why didn't I think of that? That's so dumb that I didn't think of it. And it was just like, that is going to help so much.
Yeah, and then Zunder runs in our GDKP every once in a while.
Of course, I vigilance one of the other tanks to reset taunt constantly, and I've got my 2 sets, so taunt even is 2 seconds shorter now, which is nice because warrior taunt is just not like our taunting kit is just not as good as a Pally's. Like one of them is not a real taunt, and it's a 1 minute cooldown, and it's only like within 4 yards or 5 yards, and then and then the other one is taunt and gets resisted more than you would think. Like
I think there's a glyph for it, but
there is, but you're not going to switch out that glyph. Like you're not going to switch for that glyph.
Valuable.
Yeah. So,
well, I had to look at the eye level of all of our raids just to close this section out. Our table in our raid group is at 242.4. Your weekday raid, Bob, is at like 1 eye level below, 241.4. And then your weekend raid is 234.2. So it's what, 7 eye levels below? So yeah. Those people that are around that 234 eye level, those raid groups, that's where I'm expecting is probably the average raid group eye level, and that's where it might take longer.
Yeah.
And I'm done with trying to prove my point. Let me see what the,
Bob was right. Go was wrong.
No, the GDKPI level tonight is 236.8, so right around that 235
Uh-oh.
eye level. They're struggling on a noob.
Dun,
I
dun,
keep
dun.
refreshing. They've got 4 wipes right now.
Oh boy. All right, well, let's move on to
time for the news.
all right. Well, so Sarth talked about it last week when he was on, but they were going to do a hardcore duel tournament, Makhara tournament. And yeah, I didn't happen to catch any of it. Hopefully you did, Table.
Yeah, I watched a little bit. There's a lot of gravestones.
Is there?
It's a big old line of them.
Nice. They did it in STV? Is that what I saw? Because I got to tune in for like a minute because I was working.
I don't know. I didn't really pay attention. I just saw the gravestones and I was like, yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because they did it at 10 a.m. PST, I think, so 1 Eastern. And I was like, well, I can't participate for one because I would have tried to level up my tune to 30. And then I was like, well, yeah, but I'm at work, so I didn't even get to watch it.
Let's see if the VOD's up. I think it was Sarth hosted it, so let me see if the VOD's up.
Yeah, I think Zaryu might have hosted it too on his channel if Sarth didn't have a VOD.
It looks like, hold on, let me fast forward a little bit in this thing. They might be in Shimmering Flats. Yeah, Shimmering Flats.
Well, it's okay. I was just curious if any of you caught it. I'll catch the Sarth or Zaryu edited down version. I'm sure, but I was just curious if anybody saw or partook in that, and just thought it was kind of a fun idea, and I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah,
A lot of familiar names. It was cool.
So this next piece of news is just like, it's like the PTR era and hardcore PTR. It's just talking about a couple different things, but what I wanted to point out was they haven't posted it yet, but there's a huge revamp of the classic era honor system. And I don't think anybody knows what exactly the revamp is. Does anybody have any guesses to what it is and why they would be messing with it now?
It's probably because to get rank 14 on Era, you have to basically PvP all day, every day for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And that's a lot. Like a lot of people will get rank 14 and then they just stop PvPing. So it's like, I would guess it's probably to make sure that there's higher engagement with PvP without it being just a senseless, like, tedious grind. That's the main reason that I can think of as to why they would want to change it.
That's what I think it is too. I just have no idea what they're going to change to. And I'm interested, and also like why this change now. It makes me think that like it's part of the Classic Plus idea they possibly have, or the new Season of Mastery idea that they have going into the next thing. Like, because I don't know why you're messing with that now, but unless you're making something new.
It says to me that they have plans for the future for Era. That's really what it says. Like if they're doing something, if they're making some sort of fundamental change to one of the systems in Era, clearly Era is part of their long-term plans. That's what it says to me anyway. Maybe that's copium, who knows, but that's what it says to me.
Maybe the PvPers on Era were like, hey, it's taken way too long, like, or maybe it's even like impossible to get higher ranks right now on Era. So they're just trying to...
It's pretty pop, like the PvP scene on Era is pretty poppin', but you've got all these like max gear people just beating the crap out of anybody new. Like if I go on, I just one-shot people in the gear that I left behind going to TBC. Like my warrior's just like crack, double hit, you're dead.
I mean, I'm gonna try the. I'll still be at work though, because it's gonna start at 5 p.m. Friday, July 21st, and that's like right when I get off work. So maybe it'll get delayed, like in half an hour, and I can get home and I can get on and do it.
Yeah, you're talking about the WoW devs are gonna brawl with people.
Yeah, the brawl with the blues. I'd like to hop on there because it says they'll have. I thought it said they'll have 60 character templates enabled for PvP testing.
Well,
Yeah, that sounds like a fun thing to do. Yeah, I'll probably jump on a test too.
Look forward to fighting against Agrend on his Ret Paladin with Hand of Ragnaros, probably.
Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna do. Are they gonna do like one of each BG? Are they gonna just do AV because it's 40 versus 40?
I want to see a free for all in Gurubashi. That's what I want to see.
Oh man, yeah. Well, okay. Well, that was all I had about that. And then the last piece of news is the article from Wowhead says over 120K banned. That's not what the blue post actually says. The blue post says total exploitive WoW account actions last month are 127,014. So that does not say banned, but like says action. So there was some action taken against that amount of counts for cheating and exploitation, which does not include like dumb names or in-game language violations and stuff of that nature. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. I don't think it's anything all that cool.
Mean anything. It could just mean that they like shook their head disapprovingly.
Like, All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for news. Let's go on and move to.
Bobby, we need to have a talk about this World of Warcraft Classic. Do I look like I know what a WoW token is?
All right, guys. So, yeah, this is about DPS. So with that being said, I'm gonna change our view here to where we can kind of see the charts with us. I apologize to audio listeners, but it's the best we could do. So this is what we got. So guys, this right here is week 2 trial of the Crusader, and things have changed quite a bit. Like, what jumps out to you guys here? I know what jumps out to Go.
This is the overall, right?
This is the
you gotta
overall.
be very specific.
Yeah, this is the boss. This is the overall.
And it's 95th percentile.
This is the 99th percentile, I believe. No, this is the 95th percentile. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well,
anything jump out to you?
I can tell you what's the same. Affliction and Unholy still at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Although that was not the same in week 2 of Nax.
Ret Pally is looking pretty solid. It's moving up.
Moving up a bunch.
Oh yeah, they were like bottom of the barrel before, which is definitely, it's nice to see that they're not, they're not only taken just for their utility anymore. Now they contribute enough damage to be more worthy of a inclusion in the actual. I mean, they're top 10.
Yeah, they're in 8th right now on that one.
Yep. And Fury Warrior's just right below him now at 9.
True.
Which is crazy.
I'm surprised that enhancement isn't higher, to be honest, because enhancements get real pumpy. Like with multi-target stuff, like Fire Nova hits like a truck. So I'm surprised that enhance isn't higher.
Yeah, it's weird, and balance is way down there. Survival Hunter's taken a real big step back. Marksman never came up like they thought it was gonna.
So one thing to consider, because this is all bosses, is hunters are used to soak for twins. So maybe that's bringing them down a little bit. but also mages are too sometimes. But mage is still, fire mage at least is still up there, but shadow priest a little bit lower. I always have to throw in, druids have to battle res a lot for progression, especially for 50-50 runs. So they're not going to be asking the ferals because ferals are out damaging the balanced druids. So us balanced druids, it's like maybe you resto druid first. Hey, can you get a B res? Then the balanced druid, hey, can you B res this other guy? And then feral last. So maybe in a couple weeks after we don't have to battle res as much, we might move up.
I would expect
a
that.
little
Yeah,
bit.
I feel like it's weird that like I've noticed this in our own raids. Is that usually when somebody needs to be battle resed, I am the last one who gets asked to do it, which is kind of strange because mine is instant almost every time because I'm constantly using finishers, which makes my next nature spell instant, and rebirth is a nature spell. So like my BR is instant. So all I got to do is drain energy and battle res, and it's fine. Like I'm usually like the melee battle res target, but like I don't know. It seems kind of weird that that's the case. But yeah, I think you're totally right that once people are running cleaner and things like that, and fewer battle reses are required, I would expect this to look at least a little bit different.
Yeah, I don't like the retribution in feral being so high. I'm being honest. Like they just have too much utility, and like you look at everybody else up there high. I feel like that's fair. Like they're all like pure damage classes for the most part, except for DK and like warrior. But like I feel like that retribution paladin buff was a bad idea. Like, and I feel like the feral buff kind of might have been a bad idea going into the new gear because it seems like you guys are really, the gear's really working for you. Like, so you are like going up from gear too, and those changes like might come back to just like put you guys ferals and ret paladins like in the top 3 going in, during ICC. So
it could be. It's definitely a balance issue, right? Because like when they added in like the glyph for rets, and then of course the fairy fire change for ferals, like the things that they were trying to achieve by adding those in were slightly different. Like ret was having issues with damage, so they added an option to make them do more damage, and it worked. The feral one was to get rid of bear weaving because it was causing a problem for tanks with threat, and they wanted whatever change they made to be more worth it than bear weaving to make people not want to bear weave. And it worked, but it probably worked a little bit more than they thought it would, I guess. Like, and the weird thing is that the threat issue is still not all the way gone. Like,
you guys
now
do pump a lot
are,
of threat. I put vigilance on the feral a lot.
Yeah, like ferals are up there in threat now just because they're doing a lot of damage, which, like, to be fair, if somebody's on the tank's ass on threat, it should be because they're doing a lot of damage. Whereas before, that was not the case. Ferals were on the tank's ass on threat and were barely doing any damage. So, like, at least now it makes sense that ferals are on the tank's ass for threat. But, like, their cited reason for wanting to get rid of bear weaving didn't work, essentially. Like, they wanted to reduce the amount of threat that cats were doing to, reduce a little bit of stress on tanks. And it didn't work because ferals are still really high threat generating. It's just now because it's a lot of damage.
Yep, and they're just doing silly damage right now. But yeah, I think I think for the most part though, this looks fine. I just think it's interesting how far down balance has gone. Like, because if we go back to, like, let's go back to Nax, right? So in Nax, balanced druids like middle of the pack, like
we were 11th, yeah.
Yeah, like, and demonology warlock number 1, and now demonology warlock is way down there.
Well, everybody in phase 1 wanted to feed their demo lock as much gear as possible,
Definitely.
And that's kind of gone, not all the way back, but like I don't think anybody's still feeding their demo lock bis loot ASAP anymore. So
they're feeding their unholy DKs. like at the moment, because their set bonus is going to be fucking sick for this phase. So
that could be skewing this right now for phase 3 a ton. Like who's got their 2-piece, who's got their 4-piece, like which class and spec benefits the most from the 2 and 4-piece, who's getting fed all that gear. Is it the DKs? Because everyone's saying, oh, well, DK, their tier lasts through ICC, so feed the Vank token to the DKs.
Definitely makes sense because the DK 4-piece is so huge for Unholy. It's good for Frost too, but it's definitely way more impactful for Unholy because they have talents that increase their disease damage already, and the 4-piece allows one of their diseases to crit, like the ticks can be crits. So that totally makes sense why Unholy is so high, because the Unholies that are in that 95th percentile that are parsing that high, for sure they all have 4-piece now.
Mm-hmm.
So and a lot of it too is the scaling thing as well. Like balance is where it is because of sharing a token with DKs.
And rogues and mages.
So like that's part of it. Like the Vank token is like the pumper token. Like if you look at the top 10, like half of the top 10 on that list is on the Vank token. So that hurts balance druids for sure, because they're getting deprioritized for the token because all the other people that are on the token are where they are on the list. So that's definitely part of it. Part of it is scaling, and part of it is the fights. Like if you look at something like Nax, like Faralina is an AoE fight. Boomkins are really good at AoE. There aren't really any AoE fights in ToC. So the specific fights that Boomkins really excel at aren't really in ToC.
Yeah, anything over 4 targets, Boomkins looking great, right? And then anything, of 4 targets and under, your cleaving classes are looking great. But I mean, look at Paladin here and Feral Druid and Nax. Paladin's just barely above Sub Rogue. And same with Fury Warrior. But right now, if those changes hadn't been made, Fury Warrior would probably be over Feral Druid and Paladin. Ret Paladin.
Could be, or rather, Feral and Ret would be under Warrior, I would say, because Fury would stay where it is, and then Feral and Ret would be not as high.
Yeah, but
that's
if
another
they dropped below them, then it would push Fury up higher on the list. If they drop below, but. Yeah, it's because it's just interesting that these 3 classes have moved back up, and the Warriors seen very little changes besides the munching, the bleed munching.
For Warrior, it's basically almost all of their increases based on how well they scale with their gear, versus like in phase 1, they hadn't really come online yet, basically, and now in phase 3 they're starting to come online. Like a lot of people talked from back in the day about, like, in tier 10 in ICC, Warriors were dominating. They were always close to the top, and that's because of the scaling by
so
the end
Rets.
of the expansion.
Yeah, Rets were up there too. Combat Rogues were up there too. Your list had, I think, the top 5 was, I think, Combat Rogues, like not in this order, but like Combat Rogues, Fury Warriors, Fire Mages, Feral Druids, and what did I miss? Retribution Paladins? Did I already hit them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what's your list you made forever ago about, the ending DPS charts in ICC has got me super scared from those small changes that they did to Feral and Ret.
I mean, honestly, what it's looking like now is that it's more or less falling into line with what it was originally, an original Wrath. Like Feral right now is about where it was in original Wrath 2. Same thing with Ret and Fury. They had, because they're the scaling, the classes that scale well. They are starting to scale now. That's obviously the changes that Blizzard made as well. But the scaling was going to happen regardless.
Well, also, but it's for different reasons though, because like Combat Rogue and Feral Druid were amazing at this time, because Armor Pen hadn't been nerfed yet, you know, and like Armor Pen got nerfed. I think it was during ToC towards late, or maybe just the beginning of ICC, but it got nerfed. Poison rework happened, but the Armor Pen stuff was just propelling us so high. And I don't even know if Ret Paladins, I don't know if they were using Armor Pen back in the day before the nerf or not. I have no clue.
No, I don't think so. If they had gear that
Probably
had ARP
not.
on it, they weren't going after those pieces because they had ARP. It was just the best available piece in that slot. They weren't like chasing it or anything in the same way that ferals do.
Yeah, but so big changes, like and enhancement channel was so high and now they're so down comparatively. But like the people that have really fallen are
Arcane fell a lot.
Arcane fell out. Where was Destruction? Destruction's fallen quite a bit from Nax. Let's look at the wait, what is this one? This one is Ulduar. So an Ulduar, like balance is still above feral there. Retribution's still bottom of the barrel. Like, I just don't think that the retribution change is the reason Ret has jumped so much. I don't think it's that glyph.
Yeah, for them, it's probably mostly the scaling. Like, they've gotten access to better gear.
And just the fights. I mean, the fights, like, are a lot of cleave fights, right? Which they excel at, you know, like... Who was I talking to? Oh, it was Josh. Josh from Mere Casuals was talking on Mere Casuals, like, getting in pugs on his Ret has been, like, difficult. And he's like, I don't understand why. Like, we're, like, built for 5-man content. Like, we pump in 5-man dungeons. Why do they not want to take a Ret? And it's just, like, it's misconception. People, like, still don't even realize, like, we gave our first death's verdict to, well, not we, the guild leadership gave the first death's verdict to our Ret Pally, and not everybody, but there was a fair amount of people bitching about it. And like, even I, when it first happened, was like, whoa. And then Harskar, our raid lead, pointed out, it was like, dude, they're doing a lot. And then I looked at our logs, and he had done the most damage across the entire ToGC that night. So it's just like, out of our whole weekday raid. And yes, him and I are both like two of the most geared people in the raid, but still, like, he just destroyed. And it's just like, guys, you got to remember, shit's changed. Like, it's a very different raid with different prios to different people. And so, I think it's the changes in fights are just huge, and that's why they're jumping up. And I think those changes are going to be a lot in IACC too. And I just feel like the buff was unnecessary, although barrel weaving was a pain in the ass. So I wish they could have fixed that without making them go above combat rogues.
There was some other stuff that was like wrong with feral. Is the problem. Like, there was, like, obviously we're running 3-3-5 balance, so anything that got changed to any stats along the way, it's in its final state. So, like, no matter what, like, Nax and Ulduar and ToC was not going to look the same for Classic as it did in Original Wrath, just because, you know, the armor pen change, for example, the poison rework, another example, like, that stuff wasn't in an original Nax, it wasn't in an original Ulduar. So, like, we're comparing what we saw in Classic to what was in Original, and obviously it's going to be different because of that. There was a few bugs for some classes, like the Dancing Rune Weapon thing for Death Knights. There's a few other, like, pet-related things that were slightly not the same for ferals in particular. Fairy Fire Feral used to be able to proc Fairy Fire, not at 100% chance, but it used to be able to proc it, and then it didn't in Classic at all. So it's like, I don't know, like, there's all these, like, little slight differences that caused things to be different from maybe the way that they should have been or the way that they originally were. So it's kind of weird.
Well, and what's crazy too,
look at the stuff.
There's also, people don't realize, like, Ret Paladins and Fury Warriors might have looked better on many different boss fights if Warcraft logs hadn't decided that some boss fights need ads taken out of the parse, right? Like, so the charts might have looked a lot different for both Nax and Ulduar if those stipulations weren't in place. Like we might have seen Fury and Ret higher. So if Blizzard is looking at these damage numbers on Warcraft logs, they're actually looking at the wrong information, in my opinion, because they were doing a lot more stuff than we saw on these logs. So that's another thing that just kind of bugs me about Warcraft logs, because it just completely deletes some things out of the log. And I understand people would take advantage of certain things, but it just kind of dilutes it a little bit too.
Is there a way to look at unfiltered damage for these statistics pages? I don't know if there is.
I don't think there is.
Because, yeah, that'd be cool to compare unfiltered.
Yeah, you'd have to look at your details output compared to the output on Warcraft logs. Which sounds like a big pain in the butt.
I think one of the big issues too is like there's some classes, the specs, that have to put in zero conscious effort to do extra damage to ads and stuff. And there are some that have to consciously decide to do damage to extra stuff, like Wandering Plague, Pestilence, Death and Decay, Consecrate, Divine Storm, Whirlwind, Fan of Knives, like all that stuff. Like you don't get to pick which targets those things hit. But like, you know, and Fan is a good example too of like, you have to decide to press Fan. Whereas for Pestilence, it just spreads diseases to anything nearby. They don't get to, you know, and that's part of their normal rotation. Divine Storm, part of the normal rotation. Like all these things that will just essentially pad damage through zero effort. Whereas to, you know, for a rogue to do AoE, you have to Fan or you have to Blade Flurry or whatever.
But
so
see,
it's like I get it, but also it still seems kind of arbitrary at times.
Say as a combat rogue, I'm going to take on Ariaya, right? I am going to pop cooldowns and I'm going to fan the shit out of that boss and the ads until the ads are dead. And then I AoEing shit afterwards. Not one thing. When all of those mobs spawn, I could throw out one fan and take them out really fast. But I don't, because Warcraft logs does not count that towards your parse. So I continue to do damage on the boss, and that's parse culture. That's what we're in now, you know. And I don't think I'm the only one that does this. And I'm sure other people take it to even more degrees where they don't do like actual mechanics that need to be done to keep their parse going. Like they don't stack when, you know, on Ariaya when they're supposed to stack because they don't want to have a chance at any parry, you know, or something like that, you know, from the front of the boss. And so like it could even be worse. Like I at least pay attention to mechanics, but if like that ad's not on there and I'm not called out specifically by the raid lead to go take care of that ad, I ain't touching the ad.
I'm trying to think if there's any bosses like that in ToGC, because the snowballs count for damage on beasts.
Yeah, but you have to be smart enough to cleave off of the snowball. You have to switch to the snowball because cleaves don't hit it. But you can cleave off of it to the boss.
There's some that do, like Swipe does. I can hard target the boss and just turn my character to face the snowbolts, and Swipe will hit the snowbolts even if I'm hard targeting the boss. There's a few that work that way.
I don't think Blade Fury. I guess because I've been told, I've never tried to. Wait, is it Blade Fury? Is that my double hit?
Yeah.
I haven't tried to do it off of the boss. I always switch to.
Try and see if it works. Just pop Blade Flurry when it gets close, and if it hits it, then cool. If not, then swap.
I don't think it does, because I watched Kipso's video and he talked about like you don't even want to use Killing Spree with Blade Storm because your Killing Spree for sure will not target the kobold. So it definitely doesn't cleave off of it to it.
So a noob is the only one, which maybe I shouldn't say, the rules. There's some exclusions on the noob. The swarm scarabs on the burrow phase don't count, and then damage done to the burrowers in phase 3 don't count. But like Jiraxis, the volcanoes, the mistresses, the portals, that all counts. Your damage gets normalized on twins. I kind of hate that.
What does that mean?
If you get 100 stacks of like the orbs that come in, and you get empowered, it like increases your damage. Then it normalizes that damage instead of actually showing what you got DPS wise. Yeah, that feels bad.
I did not know that.
I think there's a couple things to be said about all of those rules. The burrowers thing, they still need to die.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of unfortunate that, I mean, like I get why they don't count for logs, because then you could just allow only one person to kill the burrowers and then they would parse super high because of that.
Same
But
with
like
the scarabs,
they still need to die. So like the better thing to do is like anybody who doesn't have a mana bar is the one who kills them, because then you're not wasting mana, and then everybody who has mana can just regen that phase. So like that's a decent way to do it. The burrowers in phase 3, I guess that kind of makes sense, I guess. But like the first set still needs to die. Like if you push to phase 3 before the first set is dead, all you're doing is losing out on potential damage for a parse. So it's like these rules like change the way that people do their strats. Like if Warcraft logs would just try and make their like criteria fit the way the boss is like supposed to be done, I feel like that would encourage players to like play the way that they're, supposed to, like the way that the fights were designed. But instead, like these people are developing completely separate strats just to parse high that are different from what you would normally do on the fight, which is like super frustrating whenever you're trying to figure out like, oh man, I want to get full 99s, but that means I have to kind of be like turbo selfish on some fights and ignore mechanics on certain fights and whatever. It's just kind of, I don't know, doesn't feel right.
I mean, if the burrowers counted in phase 3 though, then we wouldn't have raid leads calling, all right, let the burrowers burrow. Because everybody would be like, no, that's my parse. Like, we need to keep the burrowers on the ice. I need to get my AoE. Like, don't let them burrow. No. So I'm kind of glad on that one. But
yeah, I mean, like the set that spawns during phase 3, yeah, I feel like those shouldn't count. But if the first set is still alive and then you push to phase 3, the damage to those ones should still count because they still have to die.
Yeah.
But then like on twins with like the damage being normalized, that's almost definitely because there are some classes and specs that have abilities or passives from talents that reduce their AoE damage taken. And Simon and I did a video about this, but if you have anything active on yourself that reduces the damage you take from AoE or just in general, you get fewer stacks. So like a rogue that pops Feint, you're getting 50% fewer stacks while Feint is up than you would if you didn't have Feint up. So you're actively discouraged. Like if they hadn't put that rule on, rogues would have been actively discouraged from reducing their incoming damage and helping the healers out just so they could parse higher. So that one I understand. And same thing for ferals. In talents, just baked into talents, and a talent that we're going to take because it increases our damage in that talent is one that reduces our AoE damage taken by 30%. So ferals get 30% fewer stacks on twins than they normally would because of that talent. And then on top of that, we have Barkskin. That'll reduce the stacks we take. So like, I get it from that angle, but like, it's hard to tell what their actual goals were with some of these rules. Like they set these rules, but like, why do the rules exist? Like they don't really do a great job of explaining why the rules are the way that they are. And I don't know if it just seems arbitrary. Like it's not arbitrary. Like they have their reasons, but like, I don't know what they are because they're not good at communicating it. If they would just tell us why, it would make more sense. And then maybe we could like give some pointers or some feedback on like how to make it better.
So I'm not going to Barkskin on twins anymore. Thank you.
Although,
even though it gets normalized, it still looks cool as shit when I'm like empowered and I'm just pumping on both the bosses. I love that.
If you have a light debuff though, if you have light up and you sapper, you get a stack because it's fire damage. Like if you have that's another thing with like resistors and stuff. Shadow resist reduces the stacks you take from the dark orbs, and fire resist reduces the stacks you take from light orbs. So it counts as fire damage and shadow damage. So anything you have that decreases that, that'll affect things a little bit too, which is kind of funny.
Well, I don't know. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to just look at kind of the differences. But you were wanting to talk about something a little extra before we go, though, right? You were wanting to talk about there's like some differences in rotations and like stat prio and with some of the classes you play. I was hoping to get a little bit of info on that before we go.
Yeah, I know a little bit changes for boomies, so I'll let Go describe that whole thing because I don't know.
Yeah, it's still kind of getting worked out, surprisingly or not, because this is a solved game, right? But for going from tier 8 to tier 9, in tier 8 we had like max uptime on our insect swarm, and a lot of people had 4-piece, some people only had 2-piece, but if you had 4-piece, then you would get like instant starfires, and that was cool if you had insect swarm up. And now once you get like 2-piece tier 9, you're switching to the Moonfire glyph, the new Moonfire glyph. So Moonfire ticks can, when they crit, they give you like a buff, a crit buff. They might not even have to crit. It might just be like the Moonfire dot when it ticks. It can give you a crit buff. That's what it is. And now we want Moonfire up at all times instead of not using it at all, like phase 2. You would only use it if you had to move and reposition. So like our dots kind of like flip-flopped. You can have insect swarm up still, even though like you're not going to have it glyphed anymore. You're going to have Moonfire, Starfire, Starfall glyphs. So like 2 of our glyphs changed. Some people, I'm trying to like go in depth here. So like some people did have Starfire glyph in phase 2. Like there's all these little things, but the majority of people didn't. They would have like, Focus, Starfall, Insect Swarm. But if you had 2-piece, usually you would have Starfire. So depending on what you had, but it's still going to change in phase 3 once you get the new tier. And it's been breaking my brain on some of these fights because I'm so used to muscle memory, and it's like I Moonfire and then I want to Starfire. So then like I'll start off a fight, put up Moonfire, and then go Starfire, and then it crits and I'm in Solar instead of fishing for Lunar right away. Like I should be Moonfiring, Wrathing, getting Lunar, so on and so forth. But we can extend our Moonfire with our Starfire glyph, and the way that works, I made a video on it. I don't want to go into it right here because I've already rambled on for a couple minutes. But yeah, like our rotation has completely changed and it's still being worked on, which is really fun. What's going on with Ferals?
I would say it's always fun when new stuff pops up because it's a new puzzle to solve. It's fun stuff. Ferals are running into crit cap issues already. Like right now with my current gear, I have like 2 pieces from ToGC. I have the neck and I have the staff. That's it. I'm still running, and like I have like the bad shoulders. Like other than that, I'm still running, most of the same gear. I guess I have 2 pieces as well, but that doesn't really change anything. Like rotationally speaking, it didn't make a huge impact on like my stats. But I guess I'll just say with full phase 2 BIS and the new idol gives you 200 agility. It's a chance to proc a 200 agility buff when you use Mangle or Shred. So agility obviously gives crit. And I have dark matter, and the proc from dark matter is worth about 15% crit. So already, just because of the high amount of agility that Ferals already have, unbuffed with just the idol buff and dark matter proc, I'm already at 75% crit, which is like only a couple percent away from the soft cap, like the white cap, which is insane. So right now, like once I'm already, soft capped on armor pen, I'm gemming agility for the most part. But the higher eye level our gear gets and the more crit and agility we have in our gear, we're going to be crit capped. So we're not going to want to be chasing agility anymore. We're going to be switching over to strength again. So like this is back to in phase 1. It was like, oh, do we gem agility or do we gem strength? So before it was like we didn't have enough crit, even if we gem full agility. And now it's we have too much crit, so we can't gem agility because we're like wasting half of the benefit of agility if we're already crit capped. So it's like it's interesting that we're back to the agility versus strength thing again. The other thing that's weird is up until now, haste was kind of a meh stat for Feral. Like we wouldn't chase it if it was on a piece of gear that we wanted for other reasons, sure, whatever. But like it was never something that we would go out of our way to get. But now with crit cap issues, we're running into a situation where as long as we're all right on hit and we're already, soft capped on crit, the only stat left in the like on the yellow gem sort of category is going to be haste. So at a certain point, if we're trying to get socket bonuses and the item has a yellow socket, instead of gemming like agility crit or strength crit, pretty soon we're going to be going strength haste in those sockets, which is like wild. Like it's so different from what we've been doing up to this point.
It is wild.
It's when you look at the amount of crit that you get from the idol, the amount of crit you're going to get from Death's Verdict, because it's always like the highest stat is chosen on Death's Verdict. If you're a strength class, the proc is going to be strength. If you're an agility class, it's going to be agility. So you got to factor that in as well. So the soft cap for ferals with the idol and with Death's Verdict is like 69.28. Nice. And it's going to be super achievable. Like I'm basically already at that without even getting all those upgrades.
So will it be to a point to where eventually even in ICC, you're going to be wanting to prio rings and capes for strength items, like rather strength armor pen items rather than agility armor pen items?
On a case-by-case basis, maybe. I haven't done a whole lot of those sims quite yet. Like I have an ICC set in my like sim profile, but like the crit angle is not something that I have looked at yet in that set. Like if that set is like, a few percent over the crit cap, then yeah, I'll probably mess around with some strength options and see if that sim's higher. But like it's a possibility. Like it's not a definite no, it's a maybe. And that's the crazy part.
Yeah, it's interesting. Combat rogues are like starting to become like okay with just having 20%, 18 to 20% melee hit, just because we don't have to we're like, well, it gets extra damage. We don't have to quite, switch up a ton. But I wonder if we had to keep our hit like lower. I wonder if we would be doing things where once we start getting to the caps, we would be switching over to, I don't know, because we still want to do attack power. I don't know.
I think for you guys, it's going to be weird because like the crit cap is based on like the attack table. And one of the things on the attack table is mischance. And since you guys dual wield, your mischance is inherently higher.
26%, I believe, for white hits.
Your crit cap is lower than mine because I only need 8% hit for everything because like ferals technically are not dual wielders. So I only need 8% hit. So my crit cap is 77.8. Like the hard cap for white hit is 77.8. For you, it's based on how much hit you have. If you're hard capped on hit, if you're white hit capped, then your crit cap is also 77.8. But if you have a lower hit than that, then your crit cap is also lower. And the way to push, you have to basically push things off the attack table so that the only thing left is crits or glancing blows.
That's why we're going for higher hit now, is because we need to make sure we keep up and don't go too high on crit.
Yep, because if your hit isn't high enough, then part of your crit is wasted. And you're also an agility class.
I forgot about that shit.
Yeah. So like obviously we don't have to worry about block or parry because we're behind the boss the whole time. So it's really just dodge, which is handled by expertise, and hit, which is handled by hit rating. So if you're hard capped on everything, the only thing that's going to be left in the attack table for white hits is going to be glancing blows, which is not reducible at all, or crits. So like that's what crit cap is pushing everything else off the attack table. So the only thing left other than glancing blows is crit. But for you guys, the three things that'll be on your attack table still will be glances, misses, and crits. So at a certain point, there won't be normal hits anymore on the attack table. Like you have to, it's a like an order. There's a specific order that things get pushed off the attack table, and you handle certain aspects of those stats in order to push them off the attack table, so that eventually the only thing left is crits and glances.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, our crit cap kind of changes a little bit because we had 7% Starfire crit from a set bonus in tier 8, and then we lose that when we go into tier 9. But we get the idol, which only gives 4.32% crit or something when it's up. So like we're losing a little bit of crit going bonus to idol, and then but we're getting a little bit of extra crit back from the extra stats from the higher eye level. So like more intellect is more crit, and more crit rating is more crit. So it doesn't exactly even out to the 7%, I don't think, but it gets us back a little bit closer. But yeah, we still need some crit. And a lot of websites back before Wrath Classic came out, it was like our priority for stats was haste to 401 and then crit cap and then back to haste. But what it looks like on the Sims is like haste to 401 and then continue haste. Like it's weird. Like it's not like the gems, the spell power haste gems versus spell power crit gems right now. It's still valuing spell power haste, even though we're not crit capped.
Maybe it's based on like what's achievable. Like even if you went full bore on crit, maybe it's not achievable to get to the cap. Maybe that's why.
I know it wasn't like in phase 2 BIS you could. Phase 3, like we still probably could somehow, but yeah, it's I don't know, it seems to love haste for us. But then again, that's like single target. So like maybe crit is better for even one extra add with Starfall hitting it or something like that, or multi-dotting with Moonfire. Crit might be better.
It's just interesting how like stat weights and values change based on these different types of bonuses and things like that. Like you're talking about with the set bonus that gave you the extra crit. Like now, like as a result of that, the value of crit rating was probably lower because of that bonus. But now that you don't have the bonus, the value of crit rating is like should be higher. But I don't know. That's weird what you're saying, that how the sim doesn't seem to see it that way. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just haven't programmed it in yet, or maybe they did and the sim is still, showing haste to be higher or something.
Yeah, it could be. You also talked about rotations changing. Did you hit on that, or did I miss it if you hit on it?
There's a little bit of like Go was talking about it with with the differences between glyphing Moonfire versus Insect Swarm and stuff like that changes things a little bit.
But like rotations is what I'm talking about. Like say in Vanilla Classic Warriors, once you were over 2k attack power, whether it's with world buffs or whatever, at that point, Heroic Strike became prio over Whirlwind, whereas 2k attack power and below, Whirlwind was prioed on single target over Heroic Strike. So like things like that, like is there any like changes up in prio of any of the rotations you guys do?
Yeah, ours is just our dots change, and instead of Insect Swarm up or max uptime, it's Moonfire uptime.
Yeah, you did talk about that. Okay.
It's also like Moonfire still might be the best thing. Like even on like a noob, for example, since there's 4 burrowers, it might be better to Moonfire all 4 of them instead of like, even if you're in a lunar or solar, it's like burrowers come out, you just switch Moonfire all 4. That could be the play. Like they're still looking into it on the Druid Discord, and I was trying to test the numbers before the show went live of like how much damage my Moonfire is, because we can snapshot a Moonfire. So if we've got procs up, or if we use a potion of wild magic and we snapshot some Moonfires with some good spell power, then that could outweigh the damage from like our Starfires or Wraths. But yeah, like we're still going eclipse to eclipse and everything. We're still popping Starfall. We're still using our treants, but yeah, just our dodge kind of changed. Insect swarm for me only when I move, but you could theoretically still insect swarm after your lunar goes away. But then when you move, you don't have that much to do. You can typhoon or you can downrank moonfire, but
You all right, Bob?
Yeah, no, I don't think I am. I just realized that Go has an alliance banner
I know.
along with its horde banner. Like, what is what?
I mean, this is an alliance moonkin too, so I mean, but you
He's
notice
also on a purple moonkin when he raids with you, Bob.
I'm sitting behind the horde banner. I would never sit behind the alliance banner.
I was just wondering. That seems off character for you. I thought maybe it was your lady friends.
Friends. You trying to get me in trouble?
I'm just saying that.
There's a little bit of differences for feral. It's like, I don't know, there's some analogs here and there. Like Rake, I would say is kind of analogous to like a Moonfire. Although like you want to always have Moonfire up, but like Rake is kind of a little bit lower on the priority for feral. It's, you know, if you can, it's good to maintain the uptime, but like there are certain situations where you don't use it. But the 2-piece for tier 9 gives an extra tick onto Rake. Normally it's 3 ticks, 3 seconds apart, so it's a 9-second debuff normally. But with the 2-piece, it becomes 12 seconds. So just baseline, if you're trying to maintain 100% uptime on Rake anyway, like you have to cast it fewer times because it lasts longer now. So that's a little tiny thing. Also with the new glyph, with the because the Fairy Fire feral change was turned into a glyph. You have to glyph into it now instead of it just being baseline. So that was kind of like the sort of give and take from Blizzard on, like, they thought that ferals were doing a little bit too much damage because of the change, so they reverted it kind of. They made it so that you have to glyph into it, so you have to give up some DPS to be able to glyph for having the proc chance on Omen through Fairy Fire Feral. So the glyph that we dropped because of that is Glyph of Rip, which extends Rip's duration by 4 seconds baseline. So previously, before they made it into a glyph, Rip would last for 22 seconds because you have 12-second base duration, and then Glyph of Shred is similar to Glyph of Moonfire, where every time you shred, it'll extend Rip's duration in the same way that Glyph of Moonfire, Glyph of Starfire? Yeah, Glyph of Starfire extends the duration of Moonfire by 2 seconds every time you Moonfire a target that has, or Starfire a target that has Moonfire. It's the same way with ferals, where you shred a target that has Rip and it extends Rip's duration by 2 seconds per shred, a maximum of 3 times. So that's an extra 6 seconds onto the duration of Rip. So it becomes 18-second duration as long as you're getting your shreds out. And then you had the Glyph of Rip, which was another 4 seconds. So it was a total of an extra 10 seconds based on those 2 glyphs. So instead of it being a 12-second duration, Rip was 22. But now that we replaced Glyph of Rip with Glyph of Omen of Clarity, now Rip is down to 18 seconds. So things have changed just a little bit with the way that we play, because we have to rip more often, which means we're biting less often. So the rotation changes a bit, the priority changes a little bit. Yeah, that's the logo too. That's what the icon looks like. So that changed a little bit. It's not a huge change because it's still a priority system. It's just now like Rake is a little bit lower prio and Bite is lower prio as well, because we want to maintain Rip, because Rip is the majority of our damage as far as finishers go. So that's a little bit of a difference there. And of course, I was talking about the crit cap thing. So like the way that we gear and the specific pieces that we're going to chase and the way that we gem is going to be a little bit different because of having to keep in mind the different caps. Probably one of the biggest changes from classes that actually does change significantly with the rotation is Unholy Death Knights, because their new relic procs off of different abilities that they normally use. They normally Death Knights don't use Scourge Strike, But with the new bonuses, they have the relic plus their set bonuses for tier 9. Now they want to use Scourge Strike because it procs a little bit of extra strength. And they have a relic that procs up a Blood Strike, or it's that, or it's the other way around. Like they have a Blood Strike one and they have a Scourge Strike one. So now Unholy Death Knights previously didn't really use Scourge Strike. Now they are. So their rotation changes, their opener changes. The other thing is Death Knights were using Darkmoon card Greatness for the strength. There were certain things that they couldn't do during pre-pull because it would proc Greatness prematurely. So there were certain pre-pull things.
And Greatness procs. Like the fight hasn't even started. You're like, oh shit, I just proc Greatness. God damn it.
Yeah, used to happen to me on my druid. I would like regrowth myself or something, or like rejuve myself before a fight just to make sure I was topped off before the fight started, and like a tick would proc Greatness or whatever. Dude, it's like, come on.
Yeah, there's something I can't believe I didn't think about this earlier. Simon he did a great little like tips video for rogues, but I would recommend everybody watch it for ToGC because there's a lot more than just rogue tips. But just like, for instance, like anybody who's a cleaving class is really going to want to blow their load for the first portal, right? So right before pull, right before you go into combat, you just swap your trinket slots, which puts them on internal cooldown, and then the trinkets are up as soon as you go into that next part of as soon as the portals come up, trinkets are up.
Yep, the portal spawn 20 seconds in the fight. So if you have a trinket that has a 45-second internal cooldown, which most proc trinkets are, you just watch.
Well, I think it's just 30 seconds. I think when you swap in a trinket, it's just a flat 30 seconds before it comes active, right? For every trinket, right? I
thought it was the full thing. I'll have to test it, but
yeah, I'm not sure on that now. But I feel like anytime I've ever put on, so like you could like swap your gloves out too, like. Although that's a
cloak.
I know the on use stuff is 30 seconds when you equip it.
Yeah, well, the gloves you could swap out. For me, it'd be good to swap out because I have gloves just macroed into everything because I want full up time. It's probably dumb for a lot of things, but for a lot of stuff like trash, it's freaking awesome because I have like literally 100% uptime on gloves throughout every dungeon.
Yeah.
But
I mean, either way, it's good to like a tip like that is definitely really good to like prevent your proc stuff from being able to proc until you wanted to. Like that's that's the whole. Yeah, and that is a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's the same thing you could do on like Razor scale too. Like right before the pull, swap them, and then like you only have to AFK for just 10 seconds to like get your parse instead of just not helping the group at all for the entire start. Like if you want to parse, but like
you could do that for basically every fight in ToGC though, because like there's so much RP between fights that like there's plenty of time to toggle. Whereas like in Old War and Nax, you basically had to get long pull timers to be able to toggle. And now in ToGC, that pull timer essentially is built in. Like as soon as you start the RP before a fight, it's like a built-in pull timer. So you have plenty of time to toggle.
Yeah, what sucks is on that first, you can't pre-pot on Northrend Beasts. Because you get 2 seconds of your pot. Like
because you enter combat well before the boss actually becomes attackable.
Yeah, 11 seconds before is from what I've seen. So like you probably only get like 1 second of your pot. Or like it's just like, come on. I mean, I guess for locks and stuff, it would still be worth it because you'd still be able to snapshot at least a dot or maybe 2.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it's gonna change a few things with toggling and things like that and pre-pull routines and stuff like that. Like I was saying with the DK thing, specifically because of greatness, they normally would want to use Ghoul Frenzy as part of their like pre-pull routine, but they can't because Ghoul Frenzy counts as a heal for their ghoul, so it'll proc greatness. So once Unholy Death Knights get access to Death's Choice or Death's Verdict, that becomes their strength proc trinket instead of greatness, and Death's Choice or Death's Verdict does not proc off of Ghoul Frenzy. So their pre-pull routine will change once they get Death's Choice or Death's Verdict from greatness. So certain things that they did pre-pull are gonna change as soon as they get access to that new trinket. And also on top of that, their set bonus and their new relic are going to change their rotation fundamentally. Because with the Scourge Strike Unholy plays differently from regular Morb. It's like an extra layer of complexity on top of things because you're trying to get Scourge Strikes. And Scourge Strike uses 1 Frost and 1 Unholy rune. It's a little more similar to the way that Frost Death Knight plays, where Obliterate uses 1 Frost, 1 Unholy. Scourge Strike also uses 1 Frost, 1 Unholy. So there's timing wise and like rotationally, things are going to change a little bit for Unholy Death Knights as well. So that's one of those things to pay attention to in these rankings that we looked at earlier. Is okay, when do all these Death Knights have all these things online, and how is that changing where they are on the meters because of it?
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how it plays out over the course of the phase.
Anything else before we start to end out here? I think we've covered a lot pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, you at home, see, we can only know a certain amount of classes, and anybody that tells you they know like the ins and outs and intricacies of every class, well, they're either lying to you or they're a savant. So like, it's just something that, it's just something you can't do. But we'd love to hear what rotation and stat prio changes are coming for your class, your spec. Like, send us an email, send us a voicemail, send us write comments in the YouTube version. Like, let us know what's coming and changing for you, because there's a whole bunch of weird stuff. Like, did you guys know that Dispriest Bis is their 232 tier four piece set all through ToGC?
Just a 232?
Yeah. Four set.
tier 8, right? Yeah, tier 8.
Yeah.
Not
That's
the new 232.
No, because the set bonuses would be the same. No, this is their Ulduar tier. It's still Bis. I feel sorry for Dispriest. It's just like, well, it's a little sad for us, Like, it's just like, but the set bonus is so good. It's just a straight like constant spell power buff, like that's just always on for disciplined priests, and it's just kind of sad for them that their Bis, and then also their Bis is weird too. Like, a lot of the off pieces have hit on them because Dispriests like they just don't use a ton of the stats. So just having the like DPS stats are actually better for them, and the hit doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't even matter on the scale. It's just the other 2 stats are so good for their class that it becomes Bis. So I'm sure there's a lot of caster DPS that are like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know wild.
A friend of mine has is also in a lootless guild, and one of their rules is healers can't put hit gear on their loot list.
See, and that's crazy right now, because I've looked at it a bunch of things, because we had a Dispriest in our weekend raid that took 2 hit items, and I was like, dude, she's got to be looking at the wrong list, right?
Yeah.
And then I went to Mel, and she's like, no, it's right here. There's like hit. I was like, that's crazy. That's so crazy. But like, their biggest stuff isn't like, like once they get to a certain part of haste is completely worthless for them. Just like hit would be, right? And then they just want that high crit and that high spell power, right? Like, it's crazy. And because of the way that they utilize their talent to get mana back, they really don't need all that much mana per 5. Like, I mean, Mel's sitting, like, whenever we do a dungeon or anything, or a 10 man, we just get done with the fight and Mel has like 85% mana. Like, and everybody's just like, what is going on? Like, you top healed, okay? Like, it's just like,
at that point you just start, maybe actually use the hit gear and throw out some smites or something.
True.
Yep.
Tank doesn't need a penance. Shoot some Roman candles at the enemies.
Shadowword Pain, Shadowword Death. Get the killing blow on the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we would love to hear from you guys and hear what other classes are doing and other things. It's interesting to us and love to hear it. Talk about it again sometime on the show. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and start ending out. I want to remind you guys to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. We want your emails. You can send those to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Discord, get your questions in there. Maybe get some, maybe talk to any of us about, something on this show. That's discord.me/Warcraft Reloaded. And yeah, how can you help the podcast? Ratings and reviews would be great. We're getting like reviews like constantly, but it's just dried up like something fierce, which is just weird to me. But like, yeah, like iTunes reviews, Spotify stars, those are still coming in. iTunes stars work too. You don't have to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. But those all help. Comments on the YouTube, liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, like that helps us grow there. The YouTube's been pretty healthy as of late, which is pretty good. You guys are about 10% of our audience now, so just keep that growing, and let's keep growing on YouTube, because it seems to be a completely different audience. And then yeah, that's how you help us out. If you want to do Patreon or anything, it's patreon.com/Warcraft Reloaded. If you go to warcraftreloaded.com, you can find all of our stuff there, all of our social links, everything you need to know to help support us. But yeah, that's how you can help us out. All right, go. Where can we find you?
I'm going to try to make this the longest one I've done yet. I'm plugging everything here. So we got youtube.com/@ClassicGo. That's ClassicGho. On kick.com/ClassicGo, same spelling. In-game on Mancrick on NA at Classic Go or Go Time or Go Gadget. And then on EU now on Mograine, Classic Go. And then you can also find me Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern on Scotty J's YouTube or Kick channel. I'm sure everybody knows his YouTubes and Kicks at this point, but we have a little show, podcast, if you will, called Cubicle Chat. And
it's a short 1 hour podcast.
Really short, really digestible. Everything's quick and concise. Everything's jam packed into a nice little 1 hour, 60-minute
a 5-hour tour.
Nice short
5-hour tour.
Short, concise, sober podcast.
I love it that Scotty was like, yeah, we're going to do a short podcast. We're going to do this. And I just thought to myself, oh, you're so cute. You're so new to podcasting. This is, well, and the problem is he was able to keep his stuff shorter when he was doing Dalaran Sewers, because he always did it at a normal hour of his night. So he did it. It was during our daytime. I think when I first guested on it, it was 11 a.m. for me. So it would have been 5 p.m. for him. But he now does Cubicle Chat, and it starts at like midnight his time. And yeah, the sauce goes over, and he's having too much fun. He just doesn't want to end it. And so it just keeps going. Yeah.
I feel bad for the guests waiting in the waiting room, because I'm
I wish I would have just waited. Although I did enjoy watching, and like I knew Table could see me, but no one on the internet could. So I kept making faces and trying to like mess with Table while he was on. But yeah,
I saw you do the shirt thing at one point. I was like, oh, nice.
Yep. The
shirt thing.
Yeah. The newscaster on my shirt says, "This just in, you're an idiot." I love wearing that shirt in public, because people look at me like, how dare you? I'm like, I'm not talking to you. It's just a funny shirt. Chill out. But yeah, it's a fun podcast. You guys should definitely check out. Support it so that Scotty J keeps it going.
Yeah,
because subsidize his gin bill.
It's 80% Scotty. I give myself 20%.
Well, I mean, Scotty edits go out most of the time for the final product, but
he edited one thing out of the intro from the last episode that I really wanted in there. So like at the very end of that intro, I don't know if both of you guys saw the whole thing, but
I did.
I was standing next to a road and I was like, hey, I'm on like I don't want to get lost. I'm on a trail, whatever. I was like, I'm way out in the wilderness. And for the last second, you can start to see a car enter the frame. And then I had like an additional line, like when the car was like driving by. So like I'm stood there like holding my Nintendo DS and my phone recording myself like while this car is driving by looking like an idiot. And I was like, oh no, that's just the sound of nature. Like pretending like, and he edited it out. I was like, dude, I set you up. I'm so mad.
That's yeah. They do. Yeah. For anybody curious, they do like intro videos that are like IRL stuff that are really, really good. Like Scotty's been messing around with his drone to do different footage for it. Like it's a pretty cool thing. So yeah.
And goes always hiking when he does his one.
Yeah. I might record some tomorrow. I'll be out there.
True druid out in nature.
Hiking.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Yep. I should send you guys some. Like, let me know if you ever want me to just send you a video, because those first things are hilarious. So I would love to work on that with you.
Yeah. I'll get a cameo from you for sure.
Little skits.
All right. Was that all the places?
You can find me on Facebook. No.
OnlyFans and yep, Trello and
Thread. No.
All right, Table. Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@tableslam, all one word. On Twitch at twitch.tv/table_slam, and on Kick at kick.com/tableslam, all one word. That pesky underscore still haunting me on Twitch there. And in game on Mankrick, Table Slam is my main. Table Bad is my alt. Shout out to the person who called me Table Bad that time that Bob was on Sart's podcast, and Bob was announcing that I was going to be on the next episode of Warcraft Reloaded, and that one guy in chat was like, Table Bad. So I named a character after it naturally. And of course, I'll be working on my Death Knight a lot too. So if you're on Mankrick and want to get a hold of me and I'm on my Death Knight, he's Table Clam.
Nice for the clam weaving. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Nice. And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can find me on Twitch and this show live on twitch.tv/BlazinBob. You can find me on kick.com and this show live at BlazinBob. And yeah, you can find everything else you need to know on warcraftreloaded.com. We out. Bye.
Peace.
Adios.
All right. Thank you very much for checking out Warcraft Reloaded podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content.